Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey, at 8 p.m. on the evening of May 15th, 2012, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, May 11th, 2012, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Fish?
Sorry.
Fish is here. We'll do a roll call?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Matesic?
Here.
Mr. Finn? Ms. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Friedman?
Here.
Ms. Kerstadt?
Here.
Mrs. Lights?
Here.
Mr. Slater?
Here.
Mrs. Olvey?
Here.
Thank you. Gretchen, you want to lead us in the flag salute?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, announcements. Gretchen, anything on your end?
I do. I have one from the Fine Arts Department. Westfield High School, in collaboration with Edison and Roosevelt Intermediate Schools, presents its annual Jazz Night on May 18th at 7:30 p.m. in Cafeteria B. The event is open to the entire community and will feature performances by 5 bands. Tickets may be obtained for $6 at the door. For ticket reservations or more information, contact Chris Vitale at cvitale@westfieldnjk12.org.
And this comes from athletics, 4 different announcements. It was a good week. First one, congratulations to our varsity baseball team, who won the Union County Championship last weekend for the first time since 2006. The boys were matched against Union and had a final score of 13-3 in the tournament played in Elizabeth. The team now boasts a 17-3 record and is ranked 2nd in the state in its section and 10th overall in the state. Congratulations. And congratulations. And it was a great game, too. Exciting.
Helped by a great slide by
Yeah.
one young Evan Friedman.
And so number 2, and congratulations to our golf team for also winning the Union County Crown. They placed 3rd in the NJSIAA North 2 Group 4 section. Well, that's a mouthful. Congratulations to the golf team. On May 6th, our other Union County champions this spring, the boys tennis team was awarded the John W. Strahan Team Sportsmanship Award at the 39th Annual Newark Academy Invitational. Congratulations to the boys tennis team. And on May 9th, Lauren Ball, a member of our state champion swim team, and Jack Leahy, a member of the state champion cross-country team, and also runs spring and winter track, were honored at the Union County Scholar Athlete Awards dinner. So a really good week for athletics. Congratulations to everybody.
This is on special education. The Special Education Parents Committee is hosting a roundtable discussion on recreational programming for children with special needs on Wednesday, May 23rd, from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. at Edison Intermediate School Library. For further information is available at www.westfieldnjk12.org/special-ed-parents.
And Fine Arts, the high school's spring production of Pippin received 12 final nominations from the 2012 Rising Star Awards released by the Paper Mill Playhouse, including Outstanding Overall Production of a Musical. The winners will be announced at the awards ceremony held at the Paper Mill Playhouse on June 5th. The nominations include Outstanding Overall Production of a Musical, Outstanding performance by an actor in a leading role, Matt Lynn as Pippin, who is here with us tonight. Outstanding performance by an actor in a supporting role, Jeff Coe as King Charlemagne, who is also here with us tonight. Outstanding performance in a featured role, Rebecca Scowron as Berta. I don't think she's here, but we'll give her a Outstanding performance by a chorus. Outstanding performance by an orchestra. Outstanding achievement by a teacher or outside director, Mr. Devlin. Outstanding achievement in choreography and staging, Samantha Hahn. Outstanding hair and makeup achievement, Alexa Derman. Outstanding achievement in graphic design, Asher Horowitz. Student Achievement Award, Bernadette Hopin, stage manager, and Allison Antonelli, costume designer. And honorable mention, Outstanding Lighting Achievement, Lisa and Michael Kimmel. Because Westfield High School is nominated for Best Show, the cast gets to perform at the ceremony. The students nominated for leading actor and actress all win full scholarships to the Paper Mill Summer Conservatory Program. Congratulations.
Okay, not too shabby in academics either. In recognition of academic excellence, leadership, service, and character, 127 juniors and 8 seniors from Westfield High School were inducted into the National Honor Society on April 26. A lot of names, so please check the In the News section on our website to read the names of all of these high achievers. Congratulations.
I do have an announcement regarding, this is about our Board of Education candidates filing deadline, which is June 5th. Westfield residents interested in becoming a candidate for the Westfield Board of Education can obtain nominating petitions at the Board Secretary's office at 302 Elm Street, Westfield. Petitions need to be signed and delivered to the Union County Clerk at 2 Broad Street, Room 113, Elizabeth, New Jersey, by 4 p.m. Tuesday, June 5th. That's a little change from prior years when petitions were accepted here at Elm Street. So petitions need to be signed and delivered into Elizabeth. Petitions may also be delivered to Vince Nero by 4 p.m. Monday, June 4th, and I guess Vince is going to deliver them down to Elizabeth on the 5th, on Tuesday. Okay. So you have the convenience of also bringing them here to Elm Street. Board of Education members are volunteers who are elected by the public during the annual school election, which this year will be held on Tuesday, November 6th, the date of the general election. The full term for an elected board member is 3 years. Each year, 3 positions become available as a result of expiring terms. However, due to the resignation of Julia Walker from the Westfield Board of Education in December, there will also be a 1-year term on the ballot to fill Ms. Walker's term. Those school board members whose terms are expiring this year are Jane Clancy, Dave Finn, Rich Matesic, and Gretchen Olig. These members have not yet announced their intentions regarding whether they will seek re-election. Prospective school board candidates can obtain a school board candidate kit at our board office here at 302 Elm Street. So we will welcome applications from the public by the filing deadline here at Elm Street by June 4th, 4 p.m., or Tuesday, June 5th, at the Broad Street office of the Union County Clerk, and we hope to have many applications of resident interest in Board of Education candidate positions.
Thank you.
And tonight I'm announcing that the last day of school for students will be Wednesday, June 20th. The final snow day for the school year will be used on June 21st. Tuesday, June 19th, and Wednesday, June 20th will be 4-hour sessions for all students. Westfield High School graduation will take place as planned on Thursday, June 21st at 6 p.m. And we'll make sure we communicate that to parents in all the schools and also put it on our website so everyone can be aware of that. Another announcement I have is just before this meeting, The Education Fund of Westfield had a lovely ceremony in here for a number of students. Actually, these happen to be student photographers. So I'm going to ask Ms. Amy Seid, who is one of the co-presidents of the Education Fund of Westfield, to tell us just a little bit about that. And I believe she has a presentation for Mr. Matesic.
This year, we sponsored our second annual Eyes of Westfield. Our second annual Eyes of Westfield photo contest. And so we had students from all grade levels participating, and our ultimate result was this poster. And copies of this were given to each of the participants, and there were winners in each grade level. Carolyn Steiner for the elementary school level, Stella Billick for middle school, and Cameron Stock at the high school. Each of them received a poster. The three prize winners got some books from the Ed Fund, and copies of the poster will be on display in the library and at each of the schools. Just so you know, the Ed Fund is a nonprofit in town, and we raise money to grant requests to teachers at all the public schools. And we welcome your support, and we invite you to read about us on the internet. Rich, this is for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's phenomenal, and I will just repeat the thanks on behalf of the Board of Ed for all that the Ed Fund does for the district, and more importantly, all of our children, all the students. Everything is critical, and everything is immensely appreciated.
It's our pleasure. Thanks.
I'm just going to stay up here for a few more announcements. We'll continue with the very good news. First, though, just notice the next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 5th at 302 Elm Street. We'll pay tribute to Intermediate Teachers of the Year who have received awards from the Optimist Club. The teachers are Stephanie Kwiatkowski, who teaches science at Roosevelt, and Christy Hautaling, also a science teacher from Edison Intermediate School. We look forward to that. But tonight, I have the pleasure to honor our vocal and instrumental students who have been selected to perform in state and regional ensembles due to their top-rated talent. And there are quite a few, and we're very proud of that. So first, we'll pay tribute to the students selected for the 2011 All-State Mixed Chorus. These students performed at the Atlantic City Convention Center over Teacher Convention Weekend and NJ PAC during the middle of November. Students are chosen from around the state of New Jersey, and the following students were accepted from over 1,000 students who auditioned. When I call your name, if you wouldn't mind just come up, I'd like to give you a certificate, and then why don't you just come around the table, and we'll get everybody up. In a few cases, there's some repeat names. Just feel free to come around again, get another certificate. You've more than earned it. First, we have Jonathan Clancy. Allison Hecht. I'm going to make this easier for everyone. I'm going to just move this back. Michael Kirkland. I would also note that Michael was ranked first in the tenor 1 section. Congratulations. Jeffrey Coe. Matt Lynn. Jack Mustard. Kim Roth. All right. The 2012 All States Women's Chorus performed at NJ PAC in February. Students are chosen from around the state of New Jersey. The following two students were accepted by the New Jersey Music Educators Association from the over 1,000 students who auditioned. Mary Barber. Okay. And Hannah Margolin. All right. We congratulate them, although they couldn't be with us tonight. Next, we have the 2012 Central Jersey Music Educator Association's Region 2 Chorus. It's a group that consists of students chosen from the Central Jersey area. Students performed at Monroe Township Middle School at the end of January. The following students were accepted from the over 600 students who auditioned from Central New Jersey. Mary Barber. Elizabeth Greismer. Michael Kirkland. Matt Lynn. And Jeffrey Coe. The 2012 Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 Women's Chorus is a group that consists of female students chosen from the Central Jersey area. Students performed at Monroe Township Middle School at the end of January. The following students were accepted from among the 600 students who auditioned from Central New Jersey. Megan Pina. And Melanie Snyder. The 2012 Region 2 Orchestra encompasses all of Central New Jersey. Over 750 students auditioned for seats in the Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region Symphony Orchestra, Symphonic Band, and Wind Ensemble. The following Westfield High School students were selected to perform with Region 2 Orchestra on January 8th at Montgomery High School. Edmund Hahn. Kristen Howe. Cindy Chow. Okay. Both Cindy and Kristen are rehearsing tonight with the Choral Arts Society for its 50th anniversary concert. On December 10th, 5 Westfield High School students were awarded the top spot in the New Jersey Region 2 Symphonic Band based on their audition scores. These students auditioned alongside hundreds of students from all over the Central New Jersey region. Students prepared scales, solo, and played a Students prepared scales, solo, and played a sight reading example, which was an unfamiliar piece of music that they had 30 seconds to view before playing it for the judges. All auditions are blind, meaning the judges cannot see the auditioning students, and students were judged by a panel of 3 professional musicians or band directors specializing in their particular instrument. The following Westfield High School students performed alongside other selected musicians from the Central New Jersey region in a concert at Montgomery High School given in January. Clay Baer. John Clancy. Jeff Marino. David Verchik. Chris Walsh. Following the New Jersey All-State audition in January, Clay Baird and Jeff Marino were selected for the New Jersey All-State Symphonic Band and performed at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark in February during the New Jersey Music Educators State Conference. That's Clay Barrett. And Jeff Marino. Clay Barrett was also awarded a spot in the New Jersey All-State Orchestra, which gives their performance at the New Jersey Teachers Convention in November 2012. In February, several Westfield High School students auditioned for the Central Region Jazz Ensemble. This audition is similar to the Region Band auditions taken in January, but focuses on jazz scales, music, and style. Zach Birkenthal, a member of the Westfield High School Wind Ensemble and Jazz Ensemble, was awarded the top alto saxophone spot in the Central Region Jazz Ensemble. Jeff Marino, who in addition to the clarinet also plays tenor saxophone in the jazz band, was awarded the second chair spot in the Central Region. These students performed in a concert at Princeton High School in April, alongside some of the best jazz musicians in the state. Zach Birkenthal. And Jeff Marino. At the intermediate school level, 8th grade student Alex Gold and 7th grade students Dale Bayert and Michael Howe were selected to perform in the Region 2 concert band. Alex and Dale were selected from over 80 trumpet players, and Michael from over 100 clarinet students who auditioned for the band. They performed with the band at a concert at the Monroe Township Middle School Auditorium on March 4th. Alex, Dale, and Michael, please come up to the podium. Alex, is Alex here? Okay. Approximately 100 intermediate school students auditioned for Soprano 2 in the Region 2 chorus. 8th grader Isabella Gelfand and 7th grader Katie Truck were accepted into the Region 2 chorus. Isabella received the highest score in the Soprano 2 section as well. Isabella Gelfand. And Katie Truck. Clearly, we have a multitude of talent in the Westfield Public Schools. The Westfield Board of Education is very proud of the great accomplishments of these students, who through hard work and many hours of practice were recognized for their superior music ability. I'd ask that we just give them one last round of congratulations. Great job. You don't have to sit through the rest of the board meeting. Thank you. Great job.
Stay golden, Pony Boy.
Thank you. Great job. We tried.
Hopeful thinking, huh? Caitlin's back, that's good news. See Sam? See Gary's here. So you going to? Yeah. You get to go with the parent?
I could,
No idea.
because I'm professional.
I have never been before. I was actually
Since I work with Lois Hastings, she asked me if she gives
she doesn't give it, but she represents the principals. Very nice. So it was. So I love those things. So yes.
It's a nice night.
Is it? Yeah. Good idea.
Okay, let me know. Yeah. We'll hit the ground running halfway after tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just don't say so.
Do you have to introduce that?
Register righteousness and restoration.
Yeah. And George is doing that? No.
Who's Rich?
Just talk?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, everyone, thanks for bearing with us while we move forward in the agenda. At this time, I would like to recognize the public for agenda items only. As you know, for non-agenda items, we accommodate those at the end of the meeting, and I'd also ask that to the extent you have comments on parking or the turf field, while you're welcome to comment now, we do have a presentation on both of those topics, so it may make sense for you to hold your comments until after those presentations. Anyone? All right. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll go to our superintendent's report. Dr. Dolan?
And as you alluded to, our first presentation tonight regards the work that's been done and will be done regarding the parking at the high school and also safety concerns. And I believe, Mr. Matesic, that you have the lead on this one.
Yes, thank you. So, as we've discussed on several occasions, the Board of Education and the Town Council have undertaken a collaborative effort to address parking and traffic safety issues in the high school and Edison school areas. The results of that effort were discussed in detail publicly in a joint meeting of the Board of Ed and Town Council on April 18th. At the last meeting of the Board of Education on May 1st, the Board of Ed again publicly reviewed the parking plan, and in response to some of the comments made by residents during our May 1st meeting, 3 members of the board, along with our business administrator, our supervisor of building and grounds, our town administrator, and our town engineer, met a week ago Monday night with these residents at Edison to again hear their concerns. I want to thank all those residents who took the time not only to speak at our last board meeting, but to then meet us again on site during the work week, and for taking the time to submit alternative proposals for consideration. I'll now review the revised proposal, and after any discussion among board members, both the Facilities Committee and members of the town are here with us tonight, and we welcome any questions from the public. In that regard, let me thank Councilman Jim First and our Town Administrator Jim Gilday for making the time to be here in person tonight. They'll be available for questions after the presentation. I would also note that in the event the Board of Education does approve the proposed plan this evening, the Town Council will hold a similar vote next Tuesday, May 22nd. The details of the plan are as follows. We will expand the existing, and actually, Jane, if you would, just show us on the boards. These are a little hard to see, but they're the same ones we've been using, except where I note there are modifications. So we're probably going to start over here. I know we're going to start over there. So we'll expand the existing high school parking lot on the Rahway side of the high school to include the area running from where the existing lot ends down to the end of the building. That area is currently grass. The expansion will net 33 new spaces in the area shown in the poster. It's alongside the high school. The Board of Education will be responsible for undertaking this construction, and the town engineer will help us with all relevant drawings and specifications needed to get the job done well. We will restripe the portion of the existing armory lot, also as seen in the poster. This restriping will add an additional 19 spots that are not currently available. The town will be responsible for the restriping. Thank you. We will construct a pullout to allow up to 3 school buses at a time to park on Rahway Avenue, alongside the high school, as seen in the poster. Buses present a safety issue when they park in front of the school on Dorian, as it reduces the travel lanes for vehicles, obstructs the line of sight, and creates traffic congestion. The town will be responsible for getting this done. We will also expand the parking lot in multiple locations at Edison School to address safety at Keeler Stadium on Rahway Ave in the following manner. We will add 1 new row of parking to the side area of the larger Edison lot, thereby eliminating the second row that was contained in the original proposal and keeping the improved lot further away from the neighboring property line. The 1 additional row will include head-in parking with headlights pointing away from area homes. We believe this expansion will add approximately 25 new spaces. Thank you. When we solicit bids for this work, we will ask for 2 alternative bids. 1 leaving the existing sidewalk where it is, and 1 moving the existing sidewalk to run around the outside of the newly constructed row of parking in order to provide a further buffer between the new row of parking and neighboring property. We will also restripe the existing Edison lot with perpendicular spaces rather than the currently existing angled spaces. It is believed that this restriping will add approximately 13 new spaces. The committee notes that this incremental number of 13 is significantly less than what was proposed in various emails and drawings by residents. The restriping proposal has been prepared by our town engineer in consultation with the fire department, looking at the proposals from residents and taking into account minimally acceptable open area requirements for fire lanes and for the ability for larger vehicles to enter and exit the lot. We will also restripe the back lot on the other side of Edison and remove the curbing that runs through the middle of that lot to accommodate more cars and buses. Currently, there is no line striping in that area. If we only take cars into consideration, we estimate that the net increase in car parking spots will be about 15 spots due to the line striping and the removal of the curb. That increase represents the difference of what can and currently does park there today of up to approximately 45 cars to what will be properly lined spots for up to approximately 60 cars. But a major factor in enhancing safety in the area is also getting buses off of Rahway. So there will be times when we want to utilize the parking lot for buses as well as for cars. It is estimated that if only buses were permitted in that lot, we could accommodate approximately 15 to 18 buses, which would be more than enough space for even our busiest events. But that would eliminate any car parking. Our goal will be to maximize the efficiency of this space to optimize the number of buses and cars that can park there at the same time during events. We will also consider how best to redirect buses to other areas to wait for pickup. Every bus we can redirect will allow for more cars in the back lot to further help alleviate some of the burden from the bigger lot. The modified plan will also add a chain link replacement fence of at least 6 feet and up to possibly 10 feet in height to help prevent individuals from climbing over the fence. It will be similar in type to the existing fence to minimize any ability for vandalism, such as spray painting, which can be a problem. We will also come back to the board with the cost of new shrubbery along the Edison property line. While the Facilities Committee is not currently recommending any additional shrubbery, we will look at the cost consideration in light of requests made by neighboring properties. The Board of Ed will be responsible for undertaking this construction, and the town engineer will help us with all relevant drawings and specifications needed, again, to get the job done well. The plan also calls for the town council to restrict parking on Rahway to accommodate our safety concerns as much as reasonably possible. The town council will also consider restrictions on Westbrook Avenue once it has had the opportunity to monitor the impact of the parking changes on the immediate area. I am certain this plan for Edison does not satisfy everyone, but it is a solid step in the right direction. We believe that we have been responsive to resident feedback while balancing all concerns. The town council will also be implementing new parking regulation changes on several of the local streets. The proposal is to limit parking on one side of Dorrian Road, Dorrian Court, Dorrian Place, Shadow Lawn, and Nottingham. In addition, one side of Edgar Road will be opened for parking. This is expected to clear up the congestion on the streets where residents have voiced their concerns about cars on both sides of their street. Proposed parking restrictions would be no parking 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., school days only, which is consistent with current existing restrictions around the high school. Residents who live on these streets will have an opportunity to obtain a residential permit that would allow them to park in the restricted area. Once again, the town council will have sole responsibility to implement these changes. As with all of the changes in street parking resulting from this plan, they will also ensure that there is adequately increased police enforcement as the changes are implemented. We will also contact the New Jersey Department of Transportation to adjust the timing plan for the traffic light at West Broad and South Avenue. This will provide more green time to West Broad Street in the afternoon only, which should provide an opportunity to clear out Rahway onto West Broad more often during school dismissal time when traffic is at its peak in this area. The town council will have responsibility for implementing and monitoring the success of that change. That now covers the heart of the proposed plan. As you can see, this is truly a joint effort by the Board of Education and the Town Council to tackle long-standing traffic and parking concerns. As I mentioned last week, there will also be other behind-the-scenes work. For example, establishing the proper parking code for students, determining who will park in which spots, and determining how best to monitor the parking, just to name a few. Our collective expectation is that these plans will be fully implemented by September 1st, 2012, in time for the new school year. With that, I'll open the floor to comments or questions from board members. Gretchen.
Rich, I just have one question, but first, it's apparent that there's been a lot of work that's happened in the last couple weeks since our last board meeting, specifically in response to residents' concerns. So thank you for bringing them, and thanks for all your hard work. The modified proposal, what's the cost differential from the original proposal that was before the Board of Ed?
So we believe the overall cost will be, in fact, lower, which makes sense. We're doing less work, less new blacktop. As you know, we haven't disclosed the overall project work because we're going out to bid. So when we get bids in, we take the lowest bid, and at that point, the Board of Ed will actually have to approve the work. and the bid at that point.
But it's anticipated that we'll save money with under the modified.
Yes.
Okay.
Ginny?
I'm just wondering a couple of things. I don't think we have any restrictions on the egress out of Edison onto Rawway Avenue, either in the current lot or the back lot. And I'm wondering if that came up in conversation to have a right turn only coming out of both of those areas.
Yeah, there and along the high school is one thing that we'll have to look at. We would defer to the town council as to how they want to restrict that, but right turn only is a consideration. Jim, I don't know if you've had time to study that further. I don't know that you would until you really put it into place, but sure, please.
Thank you again for having us. Has not been discussed in full yet, but that's a very important comment, and actually, we would defer to the police department on that once these things are put in place. Buses in particular, coming out of that back lot, right turn might be appropriate, but we also don't want to have traffic going to other places that wouldn't have bus traffic in there now. So it's a balancing act, but we'll definitely look at it. That's a good suggestion.
And Jim, it's the same, it's not just Edison, it is actually at the high school too, where we're adding that new
And that,
area.
yeah, at the high school, the new proposed lot along the side of the school is something we talked about already, which is right turn only out of there because of
Right.
proximity to the intersection of Doreen and Rawway.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So while I understand that there's a sense of urgency by the board and the town to act, we've been talking about this for more than a decade, and we have not acted in the past, and I do believe that the time now is to act. I think I would be remiss if I didn't say I had two major concerns. One is the loss of green space at the high school. Right now, you're kind of coming up Rawway, and you, when you see the school, there's the nice green lawn and the sign of the school, and the kids go out there, they play Frisbee, they paint there, the stage sets, they hang out there. It's, you know, the kids use that as a lawn, that space that will now be a parking lot. So, you know, that's a loss, and I think we should just acknowledge that. The second thing is that there will be an additional 52 cars, if I'm right, exiting onto Rawway between Dorian and First Street. An additional 19 coming out of the Armory, and an additional 33 coming out of the new high school parking lot. And I was wondering if we've thought about that and what accommodations, how we're going to manage that. Maybe the town needs to speak to that, I'm not sure, but.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. So first, on the green comment, I won't speak for everybody on the board, but I think we all agree. And we haven't found a way to put down blacktop and preserve green in the same area of space. So fortunately, we do have the whole front of the high school is green, and we'd like to maintain that. It came down to a question of, are we going to add parking space or not? And then I think we tried to pick the optimal spots to add space around the high school in a manner that maximizes how many spots we can add and preserves as much green as we can preserve. So granted, when we add blacktop, we lose green, and we haven't found a better answer.
Right.
And as you know, we've been at this for years. But I appreciate the comment. With respect to the incremental cars onto Rawway, I think there's a couple of things from the Board of Ed's perspective. We are going to think about where we put cars and who parks where, to the extent that might impact when cars are flowing onto the road. So I don't know that we'll put all the students right at the front of the parking lot to leave all at the same time. And we'll probably defer to Peter on that to come up with a plan prior to September 1, and to think about the best way that cars may be released onto the road and what times they might be released. Because remember, it's not all the teachers and students are leaving at the same time. It's not a mass exodus. With respect to traffic impact and flow, we are looking to the town to help us and to make changes as we need them. And back to Jim's comment on whether it's a right turn only or something, I don't know. We're going to have to monitor that and determine, in advance what we think the best solution is, and then modify it as we go.
So it was my understanding that the kids would be parking at the Armory. The new 19 spots at the Armory would be for students, and the 33 spots would be for teachers. That's what I was told. Is that the plan?
Not as far as I know.
I think it was said that it certainly is one possibility, but because of just what we were talking about, the details had to be worked out as exactly where we know we have the spaces. When we know we actually do have them, then the details will be worked out as to what makes the most sense for safety would be the primary issue, and then for practicality, I would think would be the second issue.
So do we currently have 33 teachers that park on the street?
You have teachers who park in the Armory.
Oh, we have teachers that park, I see.
You have 24 spaces at the Armory, give or take.
That are all teachers,
Staff.
staff.
And relatively few visitor spaces, if any.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Proceed.
This might be an easy question. I hope it is. But the high school spaces, as we all know, are very tight at 8 feet wide.
Right.
And I was wondering what the plan was for width-wise for the Armory spots, because I would recommend not 8 feet wide, because it's very hard to park.
Right. I'm going to defer to Jim on what the plan included.
I'm not an engineer, I'm going to preface this. The spaces designed for the Armory and Edison are designed to be 9-foot spaces, which is a standard. And 8-foot spaces, which is in the high school lot, is a little tight, but we're designing it as per the standard, 9-foot space.
And we had that specific conversation with respect to Edison recently with the Facilities Committee, because there was a good proposal that included moving to 8 feet spaces or even 8.5 to get more spaces. And there was no desire by the committee to make the spaces like the high school. They're tight. Thanks, Jim. Anyone else on the board? All right, and I'll open it up to public comment on the parking issue only. All right,
Now's the time.
please, sure.
I'm Scott Robb. I live at 400 Edgar Road. 12 years ago, we fought over these parking issues. On Edgar Road, we were able to put the parking restrictions in place. One of the major reasons that we fought this was the behavior of our young citizens. We had drug use. We had sexual things going on in cars. We had garbage being thrown. So my question is, who will be policing our young citizens?
It's a good question. It's an issue that comes up. We know that. And one of the things that we need to incorporate into our code of conduct is a specific parking code of conduct. So I don't have the specific who is doing what when right now. We have until September 1st to construct that. I can tell you, based on the discussions this board has had with respect to code of conduct, it has a very low tolerance for the kinds of activities you just mentioned. So we know we need to put a code of conduct in place that's rigorous and addresses that. But until that plan's in place, I can't tell you what the details are. I can tell you, though, that without that plan, in my mind, this parking proposal doesn't work. So we need that to be an integral part of changes we make.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening, Jim First, Town Councilman. You can hear my voice is a little hoarse tonight, so I'll be quick. First, I want to compliment Ms. Clancy on her hand use and something either on QVC or when Vanna White retires, maybe. But in seriousness, it's very rare that a member of the Town Council gets over here for Board of Education meeting because our meetings conflict. So it's nice that I had the opportunity. We had a night off. Even if we didn't, I had suggested for the mayor to send one of us, and I had volunteered to come over here. And thank you all, first, for your service. People don't realize that we are volunteers in the council. You are volunteers in the Board of Ed. And we all hopefully we'll continue to work together to make Westfield such a wonderful place. So on behalf of myself and my family, thank you all very much. That being said, it's been a wonderful process in terms of working with you on this particular project. 9 years ago, when I was first elected to the town council, it wasn't as collaborative of a process. And to see 9 years later, after I've been working on this, and Scott, I know he's been following me and this, and Scott's a friend of mine. But to see the collaboration between the two boards, I think it's a great turning point for us. I think we realize that we spend 80% of the people's money in the town of Westfield. And for us not to work together is a disservice to the people. So, Rich, I appreciate your leadership, the mayor, Joanne Nealon, the public safety chair, Keith Laughlin, who's also the 4th Ward councilman. I hope you all will appreciate that it's been a long road for us to get to this point. The citizen input, and I appreciate that you went out, talked to the citizens of Westbrook Court, who I represent, acknowledged their concerns and made some changes to the plan. So I just wanted to personally come here, thank you all for your work, and I truly appreciate your support of this plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Elizabeth Murphy. I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a sore throat. 46 Westbrook Road. I just wanted to clarify a few things. When you add that extra row, you are taking care of the drainage back there? You are dealing with the drainage issue,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, the drainage, Jim, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the drainage will run this way, right, Jim? Into the corner and then into the connecting drain and out across the field? You want to?
Goes,
Let me just clarify, I don't know if you're asking the same question. The lot, when it's designed, will be designed with its own drainage going to the inlet that's in the corner of the existing parking lot now.
Right.
When we were out,
drains out where?
which drains out actually to a pipe that goes out to the, what's called the channel, which goes behind Knollwood Terrace back there. There's a big channel back there, so that's where that goes. But the parking lot will have drainage design so that any water flow that's in the grass area now will be collected by the parking lot and put out into the pipe back to the channel.
Okay, and that might alleviate some of the drainage issues that are there already.
It may, yes, we think it will, yes.
Just one more question. If this second drawing is reducing the cost, I'm just curious why it's not a given that you're putting shrubbery, using that money for shrubbery to reduce noise pollution and, reduce the impact it's going to have on our property values.
Right, so as I said, we'll get we will cost out the price of shrubbery. When the facilities committee discussed what it might look like, and having been there with the additional row of parking, I don't know that any of us thought it was as drastic a change as the original plan, such that it might merit additional shrubbery. Now, the residents had given us a suggestion on a couple different kinds of shrubbery, so we'll price those out. And when we have that information, we'll give it more consideration. But it was not the committee's opinion that we should just automatically say shrubbery. So it's not a foregone conclusion there won't be shrubbery, but we will look at it.
Okay, because I know that I did suggest at one point that we go around to the court side, to Westbrook Road, to view what you can actually see. And during the springtime, it's it's a lot of shrubs, it's green, so you can't see the parking lot as much, but you still can, especially several houses that are impacted the most by this extension. So I feel strongly that that shrubbery is needed, and as pointed out in the emails that went back and forth, going from a 4-foot fence to a 6-foot fence is not going to be a deterrent for these kids. Hey, I have to be honest, I had a son who played baseball, and he was on the varsity team. I used to hop that fence, okay? And it's easy to hop a fence at 6 feet. 4 feet, 6 feet, I would say it'd be more of a deterrent at 8 feet at least, minimum.
Right, and
Okay.
in the facilities committee, we did talk about possibly up to 10 feet. We had opted to go with 6 feet, and then we got and we had let you know that, and we got your email requesting 10 feet, and so we are pricing out 10 feet versus 6 feet, my guess is there's little to no difference. And so we haven't had that formal conversation about should it be 10 feet, and maybe there are reasons it shouldn't. Can't tell you any, I don't know any. But until we have that conversation and know the numbers, again,
Well, I do appreciate your coming out to talk to us, and I do feel that we did get some, sort of compromise. But again, on behalf of the residents, I would say that the shrubbery would go a long way.
understood.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Go ahead.
please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fifi Tian. I think quite a few committee members, council members knows me already because, we've been talking back and forth for 2 weeks about how to optimize this parking plan with the goal of, with minimum cost, shortest project time, and gain the maximum parking space to solve the issues that we currently have in hand. Everybody agree, we will need more parking space, and we need to take a lot of the traffic off the street to increase the safety in the adjacent areas. So what I wanted to really compliment the committees and the township is that I was actually very pleasantly surprised that for how cooperative and how open-minded you are. I deeply appreciate your open-mindedness for listening to our concerns, for being willing to evaluate our proposals. I think my whole street, I have a lot of neighbors here, we all very much appreciate that. Let me first say that. Another thing, I just want a little bit of clarification on the revised design. Anybody know what is the current count on the parking capacity on the west lot of Edison?
If you tell me which is the
Current.
west lot.
This is the west lot, yes.
The bigger lot?
Uh-huh, this is the
Well,
west lot.
there's bigger and small.
Okay, let's use the bigger lot and the small. No, the existing.
Yes. So there are 3 existing rows.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first row, there are currently 39 spots.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to increase that to 45 by restriping. So going from an angle to perpendicular will increase the spots. In the next row, there are currently 35 spots, and we're going to increase that to 44 spots by changing the angle of the parking. And then in the last row, there are 24 spots. That's actually going to go down to 22 because we need to create the new
Driveway.
opening.
Driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one potential. I still can see that is presented in our alternate design. Actually, if anybody don't mind, Dr. Dolan, would I be able to stick this into your computer, project the plan?
It's
Presentation.
Yeah.
We have another presentation all set to go as part of the project.
I can tell you with certainty that the Facilities Committee has been through your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
It's been viewed by the town administrator, it's been viewed by the town engineer, it's been discussed with the fire chief.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certainly happy to have you ask questions as to maybe why we did or didn't like something about it or pick something. I can tell you that the way it was constructed, you had the various letters around each section showing what you viewed as the incremental spots. Our number counts were different from yours in many areas. I'm going to go with the engineer numbers.
Yes, I totally understand.
And there were several areas where you had, little pieces of space, little boxes
Mm-hmm.
that might accommodate like 2 or 4 cars, and it actually
Depends
looked
on
good
the-
because it added up. When
No.
you added them up,
Mm-hmm.
it actually was significant. The problem was it didn't allow, it took away either turning area, or there was one area right in front, right by the Rahway,
Mm-hmm.
that it took out the huge tree. And we didn't want to
right.
do that. There was just some things we didn't want to do.
Yeah. I understand. I trusted that you probably looked at it very thoroughly. Just based on this revised plan, I think one thing that we could have increased the parking spots, instead of going one row of expansion, if you don't mind, I go over there and point out where it might be.
Please.
Yeah. Now, this area, our original counts was actually very similar. You have 39 plus 34, that's 74, plus 24, that's 97. And from my count, I was based original on the whole thing of 97 spots. I probably miscounted one or something. So our baseline is very consistent. Now, based on this, the school bus lane took out over here. Actually, with these lane, fire lane, because fire lane's requirement is 150 feet from access, the building access to the fire lane. That's why in the design, the fire lane only cuts down to here. So the later on, there's a little bit of a parallel parking space, which gives this a whole heading parking space, increase a whole new row. Although we cut a couple spots here because increase the one row, and we took the driveway this way based on the design, but the net gain of this row exceeds the loss of the 2 spots in each row down here. That's why our numbers were different about 15-ish.
Right.
Okay.
So you had spots here.
So I have spots
Right.
here.
Right.
Actually, those parallel parking lot spots can be used as a school bus, and that accounts for about 5 spots.
Right.
5 to 7 spots. That can be taken out to use it as a school bus. Instead, these can all be used for heading parkings, and based on my count, this is about 17 spots down here, based on 9 feet. Now, on the other hand, I think, with the design considerations that you have 9 feet designs, on the other hand, go to 8.5 feet, you'll be probably very pleasantly surprised that 8.5 feet do not negatively impact the maneuverability when the drivers approach the spots, but it does increase the numbers. So, I mean, I really see, because based on this design, I think my measurement was actually very close, because this row is 25, we're losing a couple spots down here. In my designs, even not considering these, save this, because I have 2 proposals. One proposal saved this area, the other proposal excavated this area. So even we count the proposals that saved this area by increasing this row all the way to the bottom, to the bottom of the row, and then coming along this way to increase about 15 to 17 spots, depending on how you lay it. It actually have the net gain around here. Now, around this side of the parking lot, the other proposal, the difference between my proposal and this proposal is that there is another row of the parking that over here, move this driveway closer to here, but instead saved these spots to double as a fire lane and a school bus, because the school bus, presumably, this area is just the drop-off area. We're not directing this, unless it's a special events, the whole block, we can designate it with a cone for school bus parking, but there is no need for designated school bus parking. It can be just a drop-off area. That's why it saves this row. By that way, we get 15 more spots over here, and we still get a big fire lane, double as a school bus drop-off over here. So this lot, you're gonna increase about 15-ish. This lot, you're gonna increase about 15-ish, whereby saved this paving. That's where I wanted to point out that's the difference, that losing rather save these spots but go heading this way. Just a different thought, this different consideration. As I said, I really appreciate that you look into all the details that I submitted. It was a very rushed proposal to put together. I don't think, besides the graphic, I was hoping it's self-explanatory enough.
Everything that you just described was essentially clear from your plan. And there were 2 pieces of what you just described that account for the biggest difference. And those are your use of the existing fire lanes, which we're not changing, and that's based on the recommendation of the engineer and the fire chief. and the use of what we're currently noting as bus space, because it is all linked. So anywhere we take out bus space for parking, then we have a bus problem. And we want to eliminate the buses on Rahway, and we're going to do that as best we can. If it turns out we don't need all that bus space, maybe we'll open it up for parking, but we could not find a construct that made the project meaningful to get cars and buses off of Rahway from a safety perspective that would allow us not to put in that one row.
Right,
So I
actually-
do feel like we've looked at
Okay,
everything you've referenced.
so, I see this and I can see your reasonings as for why buses, but on the flip side of the story is that these parking areas are opposite to Kayla Stadium, where the most activity is, and where there's a lot of dangers for pedestrians, cars crossing the street. So I did not think actually we should locate the bus parking on this side of the street. Instead, we proposed to bring the bus towards the Lincoln School area, use the existing U-shaped driveway, as well as some bus loading spots designated already. There are 3 designated bus spots right there, and the U-turn driveway can accommodate quite a few buses, which will bring the pedestrians, kids, on the same side of the Kayla Stadium. That's actually an increased safety feature rather than bring the bus to this side of the street.
Right.
So that is something that we can explore and consider. Bring the bus towards the Lincoln School side. Let loading and offload students happen in that direction. That's the same side as Kayla Stadium.
You have any additional comments?
No, just hearing that just reminds me that a lot of the buses are for our students who utilize Edison School as a changing place for loading on and off. So actually, if they were getting on and off the buses over at Lincoln School, they would have to cross the street to get.
You mean they use changing room
Yes.
in Edison?
Yeah, there's a locker room there.
They use locker room.
Yes,
How
the
many?
baseball players. But
how
I'm
many?
just saying, when our students are picked up for games, away games, they're picked up in front of Edison because they utilize that area there. So they would have to cross.
How many teams?
I don't know. I'm just sort of
right.
That's as you're
I'm
as I'm listening. That's just one of the thoughts that came into my head.
Okay.
I mean, it's something
if
again
they
for us
have
to
changings,
talk about.
if they have changings in Edison, by all means, there's designated bus spots already. How many of them? I think we can analyze this about what is the most efficient, like really till once we start to use it, we will probably realize, do we have too many bus spots or too little bus spots? But on the other hand, once we started to build this parking lot, that's irreversible. So does that worth a tryout period that with the current increasing with no pavings and designated the bus spots that way down the road, if we completely feel that it is necessary, again, we can always add that row later. But if we add that capacity and we actually found that it doesn't give us too much benefits, then you can redo it. Plus the green area, like the other day, you all went out to on-site to meet with us. It is used for track team warm-ups. It has been used for football team warm-ups. A lot of the youth games happen over there. Marching band use that as well. So that green area is currently actually heavily used as a activity center.
Right, and I think a benefit of scaling this back is that it does leave a meaningful amount of space.
Exactly.
I think I also, from having been there that Monday night, that area, that street area, when there's something going on, is a mess. I mean, it is clearly unsafe, and we're trying to take all of that off the roads. And I know you've requested that the town consider taking cars off of your road. They've got to go somewhere, and as we've gone through it, and we've gone through it a lot, it feels like we are trying to compromise as much as possible to create a solution that allows for maximum flexibility with cars, buses, and resident concerns.
Okay. Okay, no, I appreciate, as I first said, that we appreciate that. Now, at this point, if this expansion is absolutely necessary, in the, opinion of this committee and professionals, I think that we will support it. Now, the question is, like what Beth just said, is about the landscape barriers, that shrubs and bushes to take care of the drainage issues, to take care of the noise pollutions, to take care of the privacy intrusions, trespassing issues that you've seen.
Right, no, we
during
understand all the
your
concerns.
visit. So I think all these things now, the fence, a taller fence, and the shrubberies are certainly very, very, very critical at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, guys. Bob Morse, 54 Westbrook Road. Bang this. What assurance would we have that a second row wouldn't be put in at some future date?
Say again?
What assurance would we have if we, I don't want to say went along, but if we end up doing the one row, what assurance would you provide that you're not going to do a second row? A year or
In the
two from
future,
now?
if there were a need?
Yeah,
Probably none.
okay.
I don't perceive a need. I don't have any interest in doing this again.
Me neither. Okay, thanks to turf people, anybody who's here, for putting up with all this, by the way. I'll be quick. Fifi said most of what we wanted to say. We sent you, I think, Friday night, about 9 o'clock, you guys sent us an email with a counter proposal, revised proposal. We sent you a response Monday morning, yesterday at about 9 in the morning.
Right.
I didn't see anything posted when I left my office at 7 o'clock, so we're kind of responding on the fly here. So despite, with all due respect to Fifi, our Westbrook Road group will need to speak about this. So I'm pretty sure we're going to provide another response at some point. Okay. I would probably, use at Keller, since the artificial turf was put in, has greatly increased. It's one of the things we mentioned. Most of the events going on at these places, and I don't want to single out a particular sport, but the biggest problem, and if this whole project is really about safety, you got to get those kids on the other side of Rahway Avenue. Track meets 8 or 9 schools, 8, 9 buses, hundreds of kids. You're having them cross Rahway Avenue? Fifi touched on that, but we're really talking about safety here. Those buses have to go by Lincoln. It's just pure A plus B equals C. There's like no disputing that. There's a way to do it. We haven't looked too far into the specifics, but a bus or two for a particular sport is really not an issue at the current lot, current west lot or east lot. Regardless of how you stripe it, those buses, if you want to ensure safety, should be on the other side of Rahway Avenue, on the same side as Keller. It just makes total common sense. So, I'm not sure, Fifi went into counts. I'm not sure if we agree with your count on the east side. That can be discussed. What would be added by striping that and getting rid of the curbing. We did some measurements. You're only putting in about 60 total there. I think you could get 70, which gets you to somewhere between 70 and 80, and which gets you far closer to what you were talking about. You were saying a net gain of 15 on the east, and that sounds low to me. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're talking about restriping the west lot? Okay, because I didn't follow all the technical. And that, just the restriping itself would gain how many spots?
13. This restriping
Whatever restriping you're going to do on the west lot.
would gain...
Because I don't know if you added that into your total of 45 and 15.
13.
13.
UNF's 13.
Okay, so does that put us at 53?
That puts us, total project?
Yeah.
I believe it's 53,
Okay.
52 or 53 increased spots. Yeah.
All right, so that's basically what you were looking for. 55 is what you're hoping for.
That's what the original proposal produced. You gave us some good ideas.
Okay. I don't know. I'm in my house 18 years. I remember not knowing what to do to talk to somebody about enrolling my children in the school district. A few years later, there was all of a sudden an explosion in enrollment. Apparently, nobody knew was coming. I'm a scientist. These things go in cycles. I'd just like to note that enrollments rise and then they fall. That's all on that point. Parking lot won't go away, though, once you do that first row. And is anything that you presented tonight that's a modification from previous proposals, is that posted anyplace in writing that we could see? And or have you guys developed any diagrams at all that show numbers of spots? Because most of our emails have been words.
Right, so, other than these diagrams?
Yeah.
I'm not aware we have anything that we've posted or otherwise.
Okay, so we haven't seen one showing the east lot, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, there's a lot we haven't seen yet.
Other than this?
Well, yeah, I don't know if I can really make out an additional 15 spots from here on that, but I mean, I think we need a little bit more time to look at what you guys presented tonight. Because for no other reason, we responded to you Monday morning. So to have to respond formally right now is kind of not really enough time.
I'm not sure what you mean by respond. So tonight, we're going to ask the board to approve the plan.
Right.
I believe it has been responsive to your concerns. As I noted in my remarks, it doesn't cover everything you've asked for.
Right.
It contains a couple of open points, so the height of the fence, I've commented on that. Whether we would do shrubbery, I've commented on that. The positioning of the sidewalk as you've requested, I've commented on that.
Mm-hmm.
And we are more than willing to go out and get the bids and discuss those as the bids come in.
Okay. And if nothing else, I haven't had time to talk with my neighbors tonight. I just came right from work, so.
Got it.
I'm not sure, if you were to characterize our position right now, I'm not sure what it would be. And if you were to do that right now, I don't know. Quiet. I guess I have one last question. Who compiled the 17-page proposal that originally was presented?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to.
There's a reason I ask. At the April 18th meeting, I mean, I'm not even, just, it occurred to me today that, isn't there a traffic engineer that's been part of this process?
Yeah, Jim could probably speak to that, right?
Okay.
Yes, the town in this process has been consulting with the RBA Group, which is a professional engineering and traffic engineering firm. And the April 18th presentation was prepared by him and his firm in conjunction with Board of Education members and town council members and professional staff on both sides. And even these proposals that you've seen here on the PowerPoint presentation, which has been online for some time, and even tonight's new rendering of Edison School, he's been consulting on as well.
Are they still going to be part of this, or are they done?
Yeah, as was noted in Chairman Matesh's comments tonight, if this goes forward, as our town engineer produces the plans and specifications for the Board of Education to use for the bidding process, he'll be consulted as necessary to make sure everything complies with state and federal regulations. So.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on the board with additional comments or questions? Yes,
I have one comment
please.
and question. Hi, my name is Retha Braxton, Bob Morse's wife. My question is a simple one. It seems as though even that we've come back with an option that's very acceptable, that gives you the same amount of spots without paving that you want to pave. Is there a mandate here that you have to pave?
You just categorized your response as very acceptable, which maybe I wasn't clear, but portions of your response were not acceptable to the fire chief. Portions of your response didn't allow for sufficient vehicle access, large vehicles, to turn through the parking lot, and portions we didn't deem acceptable. So is there a mandate to pave? Absolutely not. We have our own board members questioning why we're getting rid of green. But we are trying to find a solution to get cars and buses off of Broadway.
Okay, and one more question. I get it. But I had to put it out there because the whole team wanted to ask that question. It's like we're going to pave whether we need to or not. I mean, I just,
Nope.
you know. The other question is, because you weren't clear about the sidewalk, and the sidewalk makes a big difference, because I'll tell you, I think when we talked about the measurements, if you don't get rid of that sidewalk and the one row is on the other side of the sidewalk, you're basically saving around 10 feet, which, you know, quite frankly, is not a big amount of space in terms of saving space close to the property.
I don't mean to cut you off, but just explain to me, how does, whether it goes sidewalk, blacktop, or blacktop sidewalk, how does that
Because
impact
pedestrians are better than cars close to your property. That's how I feel.
That's a fair point. And
That's how I feel.
Understood. Agreed. I agree.
And with a high fence, the pedestrians won't be able to go.
You can't get over
No.
there.
All right.
We understand. Those points are open and will continue to be considered. Anyone else from the public or the board? Vince, could you direct us to the resolutions?
Attachment number 5.
Yes, it's on page 6 of the agenda, number 2, and it's attachment number 5.
Did we receive today? That's something else.
And these reflect the revised, the modifications we've made to the plan.
Correct.
Are there any questions on the resolutions? All right. You can take a roll call,
Is there a motion?
Should I make a motion?
please.
Okay, so at this time, I would like to make a motion to ask for the board's approval of facilities item number 2, which is the resolution regarding the parking at the high school and Edison School. The second?
Second.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Ogle?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Move to superintendent report number 2.
And the second superintendent's report.
I just again like to thank Councilman First and our Town Administrator, Mr. Gilday, for coming tonight, being responsive to questions, and really helping us move this forward. Thank you very much.
Look forward to working together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, with that,
All right, thank you, sorry.
I believe that Mrs. Clancy and I are going to change seats so that we can begin the second report, which deals with the proposed turf field.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Good job, Rich.
Okay.
You look good up there, Jimmy.
Much comfortable, my chair. Good evening, thank you for being here. At the last board meeting, the Facilities Committee brought forward a recommendation for a turf field with lights to be located adjacent to the high school. Tonight, our presentation will review the key components of the proposal, the demand and utilization of our fields, the safety benefits to turf, and why now is a good time for replacement of our high school field. I have sat on the Facilities Committee since 2006. The committee meets regularly to discuss current and future needs of our facilities. With recent savings to the district, we have been able to complete or begin several improvement projects. These include boilers at Franklin and McKinley schools, windows at Edison, rigging to the stage, and replacements of lockers at the high school. We also moved forward on a large technology initiative, the installation of a wireless network, which will help move our district forward in our new technology development plan. Through these discussions, there have been two topics that have been on the burner as long as I have been sitting here. They are the need for roof replacement and the frustration and difficulty in maintaining sustainable playing surfaces on many of our fields. During this time, a great deal of work has been done, as well as years prior, to help maintain what we have. I cannot let this moment pass without commending our outstanding buildings and grounds crew led by Mike Morris for their incredible work in keeping both of these areas safe and usable. Without them, I believe we would not be able to put together a well-thought-out plan to help reach long-term solutions to the roof and field issues. As we have said before, with the inability to save additional money in our reserve fund balance, with cuts to state aid, and with a 2% budget cap, we are not able to build funds to satisfy the needs of large capital improvements. So over the last year, the Facilities Committee has done extensive research into gathering detailed information on the roof and field conditions. We have already voted to accept the bond referendum for the roofs, and tonight we will ask for a vote from the board to add the turf field proposal to the bond. As we reviewed the field reports from 1999 and 2009, we found one underlying message. We have limited space available for a constant demand of our fields. We have tried to repair natural grass fields, Tamaulipas as an example, only to find ourselves right back where we started in a matter of months. The outcome of the 1999 report was Keller Stadium, and the outcome of the 2009 report was a facilities recommendation in 2010 to add a turf field. The 2009 report stated that artificial turf has become the new standard for high school fields. We know that turf helps to solve our field condition problems. It provides our children with a safe, reliable playing surface, one that gives flexibility to support multiple sports and to maintain field integrity and consistency. I will close my opening statement with one more point. In today's society, children have many opportunities to connect to the world just from their living room. Although this has its benefits, it also has its downfalls. Giving children greater opportunities to be outside, engaged in activities that promotes a healthy, well-balanced lifestyle is critically important. This turf field proposal is not just about giving our athletes a nice playing surface. It is about giving the children of our town a safe, sustainable environment where they can feel the benefits of outdoor activity. With turf at the high school, we can optimize those opportunities all day, almost every day, and as our mission statement states, help children to reach their greatest potential. So at this point, we're going to begin our PowerPoint presentation with Sandy Maymarie. Thank you very much, Sandy.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. And why is there a demand for an artificial additional fields? I'm sorry. As we experience growth in population and activity, there is no relief in sight for the natural grass fields. Before we get into a hazardous field environment, we would like to be proactive with a prudent response by constructing a second artificial turf field. Our next slide demonstrates the population increase of the Westfield children under the age of 18 years old. Our next slide is the Westfield Public School enrollment increase from the year 2001 to 2012. This is our 10-year growth in athletic participation. Participants of the Westfield Soccer Association, Westfield Lacrosse Club, Westfield High School, and the Rugby Club. The Board of Education field report studies in 1999 and 2009. The recommendation from the 1999 report was to install a turf field and a new track at Gary Kaler Stadium. Our proposed recommendation from the 2009 report, which is now coming to fruition, is to install an additional turf field. So how can we meet the demands for additional fields? We could meet those demands by installing a multi-purpose turf field with lights. This will increase the capacity for athletic and physical education activity, allow for the repeated use all day, every day, without damaging the field, expand availability to Westfield children by extending field usage hours, and allow for multiple sports to play on one multi-purpose field. The advantages of Westfield High School location: can accommodate one regulation size field, 2 developmental fields, 2 softball, baseball fields. The lighting would extend capacity and hours of activity. It would be a greater opportunity for outdoor commencement. We have adequate parking, would accommodate increased high school enrollment. Locker rooms are already present and bathrooms are present on site. We have less travel by the student athletes after school to get to the field house, to get to Roosevelt. This way they're staying in-house and basically going out to their backyard. An attractive venue for tournaments. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is our new architectural rendition of the WHS proposed lighted turf field. As you can see, it's a little difficult to kind of read some of the small detail, but you can see where the brown corners are on the field. Those are the softball fields and the corners, and then right in the middle, basically, of the infield of the softball fields, you could see where the end line is, where the multi-purpose field then would begin, the regulation size field. So with this kind of drawing, you could see that it's a very, very large space, and the space is actually bigger than the football field.
I think we're just going to bring up the rendering.
You want to put that over?
Board members don't get to see it.
You could look at that.
I think it's the same thing, isn't it?
That's right. Camera see that? Camera can see that. Yeah.
the screen.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely better for our audience to see. If you can see that, that drawing, you can basically see the lines for all the different kinds of fields that will be permanently lined. So you will have softball fields, soccer, boys and girls, field hockey, and boys and girls lacrosse. And they will all be permanent lines drawn on that field. When we travel to other school districts with similar standards and expectations, the school district of Chatham actually has access, it comes to our mind, and it has access to utilize 4 artificial turf fields in that one town. The district does own 2 of those artificial turf fields, which were constructed through bond referendums. In 1999, the proposal for changing Kaler Stadium from a grass field to a turf field, in 1999 we used Kaler Stadium for football varsity, football JV, and football 9th grade. And once turf was installed on that field, you can see the list of sports and programs: football varsity JV in 9th grade, field hockey varsity JV, boys lacrosse varsity and JV, girls lacrosse varsity and JV, boys soccer varsity and girls soccer varsity. And so now here we are in 2009, looking at that proposal back then at the field at the high school, which currently we use same sports: softball varsity, softball JV, and field hockey 9th grade. And with turfing the high school field, now we will completely utilize the field for various programs: girls soccer varsity JV in 9th grade, boys soccer varsity JV in 9th grade, field hockey varsity JV 9th grade, possibly 8th grade, softball varsity JV in 8th grade, girls lacrosse varsity JV in 9th grade, and boys lacrosse varsity JV in 9th grade. The overall projected use for the Westfield High School lighted turf field: the WHS physical education curriculum, which is the entire student body at 1,850 students. The girls soccer program, varsity through 9th grade. Boys soccer program, varsity through 9th grade. Field hockey, 8th through varsity. Softball, 8th through varsity. Girls lacrosse, 9th through varsity. Boys lacrosse, 9th through varsity. The commencement, marching band, and then on the right side we see all of our youth clubs and associations: the Westfield Lacrosse Club, Westfield Soccer Association, the Girls Softball League of Westfield, the Rugby Club, Westfield Baseball League, and the Westfield PAL. The benefits to physical education classes: they can accommodate 3 classes in one period. The outdoor activity immediately following rain. More diverse activities offered during classes, extended outdoor activity, and a safer environment. And if any of you travel to the high school today, you would have witnessed one of our perfect storms. We have the art show going on in the main gymnasium, and rain, which basically means that we only had 3 teaching stations for physical education all week. So we have no access to the main gym with the art show, and because it's sprinkled on and off, while it wasn't raining, we couldn't get out to the field, and so therefore we had the freshmen, the juniors, and the seniors in 3 teaching spaces. So for us, that was a nightmare. Safety benefits of artificial turf, and as many of you know, this is very near and dear to my heart. As the previous certified athletic trainer here at the high school, preventing injuries was my main focus, so that we can keep our athletes out on that playing surface, so that they had more opportunity to compete and perhaps get success and win some championships. So this slide is very, very important. The fact that artificial turf will allow us to have 55% fewer neurological injuries, and that would be under the concussion category. 38% fewer third-degree injuries, and when we say third-degree injuries, basically what we're saying is complete tears, complete ruptures of muscles and tendons and ligaments. So things that would have to be surgically repaired. 45% less time lost to long-term injuries, and that's very major. 45% is a very high percentage. 35% less time lost to short-term injuries. So the field also becomes very forgiving when we're trying to come back from a substantial injury. The benefits of a lighted turf field: additional hours of activity per week for Westfield children. Use of lights will be consistent with the town commitment. I believe at Sidfay and Houlihan, those lights are turned off at 9:30, and we will abide by those same rules. The lights will be off by 9:30. We also will have extended seasonal play. Next would be the bond proposal, and at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Yanero.
Thank you. Looking at the, first the construction costs. Include the architect engineering fees, all the legal bonding, permit fees, landscaping, bleachers, minimal spillage lighting, storage facility, and batting cage. The estimated cost is $3.3 million. The estimated tax impact. First, note that the current bond issue rates are at historic lows. We look at the estimated tax on the average assessed home. That's $182,000. The high school turf field would be $21 per year. That's for the $3.3 million we just mentioned. The roofs that we talked about before, that was the $13.6 million. That represents $87 per year, and the total annual tax, $108. However, due to payments on prior bond issues expiring, the average debt service tax impact decreases over the period of the new issue. What that means is that our budget consists of two parts. First, an operating budget, and then the debt service budget. The debt service budget includes previous bond issue payments that are due. These are very similar to your mortgage payments. We have a number of previous bond issues, all of which that mature at different times. As they mature, that means we no longer have to make payments on those issues, and thus our total bond issue decreases. What is commonly done with the new bond issue is to blend the new payments into the existing payments in order to produce the lowest possible tax impact. We can look at examples on the next slide. 2013-14, that's the first year that will have the impact of the new field. The existing total debt service payment, sum of the total payments for the average assessed home, is $281. The very first year that the bond issue is on, the new bond will be an additional $45. Thus, the total is $326, and that's about a $45 increase over the previous year. That's the new bond. Then, over the next 6 years, basically the payments remain flat. The existing bond payments go down to $240. Again, as our existing payments mature, we lose some of those payments. The new bond is now up to $96. and the total is $336. So the increase over that six-year period is about $10, which is basically flat over a 6-year period. When we move to 2020, 2021, you notice the existing bond payments dropped to $152 as our bond payments mature. The new bond at that point is about $113. The total is $265. Well, if you compare that with 9 years later, the previous year, 2019, that's a decrease of $71 in those payments. Again, a lot of issues came due that year. Then if you go the next 12 years, you notice that the existing drops off to zero. All of the existing payments have matured. The new bond at 108, thus the total is 108, and that represents a $157 decrease over the 12-year period prior to that. So that on average, your total debt service payments are decreasing. As previously noted, the Facilities Committee is recommending that the roofs and turf field be combined and included in a September 24th referendum. Any questions?
So Sandy's coming back up.
And because we had such a positive response to our top 10, we brought them back. The number 10 reason is the minimal maintenance on a turf field. It permits rotation of natural playing fields and hopefully will give those fields some rest to rejuvenate and maintain their safety. We can have multiple users. Number 7, increased scheduling of the field. Number 6, minimal impact due to weather conditions. Number 5, added benefits to physical education classes. Number 4, decreased incidence of injury. Number 3, additional hours of field usage per week. Number 2, safety with a consistent surface. And the absolute number 1 reason, to increase the opportunity for the growing population of all children in Westfield to participate in healthy outdoor activities. And at this time, I'd like to turn this over to 2 of our student athletes, Michael Cash and Emily Gretzky. They're going to come up and say a few words.
Hello, my name is Michael Cash. I'm currently a junior at Westfield High School, and I'm on the lacrosse team. And every day before a game or practice, everyone has their routine. Say, go to the trainer, get something to eat before practice. But one of the main questions that comes up is, are we on the turf today? Are we at Tamaqua school? And I don't want that question to be answered anymore, or asked, sorry. I just want to have that feeling to go, oh, we're already on the turf. We're at the backyard, which hopefully we can call this turf field. Or we're at Keller, because the majority of our games are on turf field. So I believe that we should practice on these turf fields, and it'll benefit us, prevent us from injuries, and it'll just be a great time. Because I cherish every single moment we're out on the turf field, wearing that W on our chest, seeing the W on the field. It's a great pride. Every team has that, and I cherish every moment of it. And yet, I still do have another year, but still, I want that other year to be on that field, to have that opportunity to have multiple turf fields, and that would be absolutely fantastic. And yeah, short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Gretzky, and I'm a senior at Westfield High School. I've been playing a variety of sports for Westfield throughout my life, starting around kindergarten the Pee-wee soccer, Pee-wee baseball leagues. And I'm currently one of the captains of the girls lacrosse team. And I would like to talk to you guys about, obviously, the proposed turf and lights. Currently, we have one turf field that is used constantly throughout the school year. While it's great for the school year where everyone enjoys sports, getting enough time on these turf fields is a real challenge. The good news is that my team currently is in the second round of states, and we have a game on Thursday against the top team in the state, which is Ridgewood for girls. And even though we have a game on Thursday and we have time to practice tomorrow, we only have an hour and a half on the turf. And that's because track team, they are constantly pounding on the track all the time, the pavement outside, that they really need to use the turf to warm up. So that pushes our start to 4 o'clock. And then since the boys also are going to states and they have a really tough schedule and they need to practice too, we end at 5:30. So our preparations for these top games are decreased immensely, and that puts us at a disadvantage. Okay, and also turf field would also allow us to have more of an opportunity for home field advantage because all of our games are played on turf. We all often have to resort to going on away games, and really, I know personally when you go to a football game or if you go to a boys lacrosse game or any of the games, the crowd is really excited throughout the whole entire game, and that really pumps you up. So if you are at home, you are playing at home, and you have the opportunity, then it's really just a great experience overall. I personally work with the younger teams as well, and I ref them too. And just last weekend, I was reffing a 3rd and 4th grade, and they play at Westfield School currently, but there simply isn't enough room there for all of them to get there. And with the increase of people joining the leagues and joining the town and everything like that, the space for them to play and to play in a safe way decreases a lot. Also, when we do play on grass, the girls' field is at Tamaulipas Park, and right at 6 o'clock, all the baseball teams are starting to play, and our field is actually surrounded by 3 baseball fields, so we do not have a safe environment to really play past a certain time, even if there is light outside. So when we do practice at Tamaulipas Park, we are constantly getting pushed off by the refs because there's a youth league baseball game going on, and that is it's hard, definitely when you have an important game, and it's really important to get in all your other activities as well. A lot of times for lacrosse, we have to do film work to get prepared and other activities, and to keep ourselves physically fit, we also work at the weight room and everything like that. So if our stop time is decreased to 6 o'clock, it is really, it doesn't allow us to be prepared for our games. So I've always been on one of the fields between playing lacrosse, helping with the youth league, and reffing. Having access to the turf field allowed me to participate in these sports and keep me active, and that pretty much makes me the athlete I am today. And tonight I'm asking you all to allow the kids that come after me to participate in the great experience I was afforded without having to worry about time, space, or conditions of grass. When I was actually playing on grass my freshman year, I did have a couple of high ankle sprains, and currently to this day I still have to keep getting my ankles taped because of that condition. And I just urge you all to support the turf fields and lights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like some input from some of our coaches. And so Caitlin McDonald, one of our former student athletes who is now one of our language arts teachers, coaches, is going to speak.
Hi, everybody. Like Sandy said, I'm Caitlin McDonald. I'm an English teacher at the high school. I graduated from the high school in 2002. I was a student athlete. I participated in both softball and the field hockey program. I've gone through both programs as an assistant coach, and now I am the head coach of both of those programs as well. So I know the programs very well and have known them for a very long time. All of the pluses have really been hashed out, and I think that you guys really get it. And I think that one of the things that these two young athletes just got at is the experience and creating opportunities for our kids, and that's what we're looking to do. As far as the softball and field hockey program goes, for softball, what this would do would be to open up time for our other spring sports. This is our home field. It's where it's kind of the only real softball fields in town where they are right now, and what this would allow for us to do, having 10 home games a year, that allows every other day of the year to be boys lacrosse or girls lacrosse allotted space while we're practicing at the same time. We can have more kids on that field very safely than we can now. We don't have a fence now. We don't have a breakdown fence. And if it rains like today, they can't be on that field very, very easily, and neither can we. For field hockey, it's more of a game changer. Field hockey team, varsity and JV, nearly every opponent we play plays on turf. My goal as the leader of that program is to prepare these young athletes for success, to have success. And we have decided as a program that practicing on that backfield the way it is now, it doesn't work. It's impossible. And the closest thing I can come up with, because I know a lot of people don't know field hockey and they don't know the difference that playing on grass and playing on turf, it's a different game completely, entirely. The closest thing I can think of to compare it to is asking the swim team to prepare in the pool and then swim your meets in the ocean. You can absolutely teach those skills. You can absolutely teach, it's the same sport, the same maneuvers, but the skills transfer so differently that there's no way I can fully prepare these girls to go out there and play and have success on that backfield the way it is when all of our competitions are on turf. So we're at a disadvantage. So what we did to kind of compromise a little bit this fall is we began practice every day after the home games finished at Kaler. So we began practice every day at 5:30. So what the girls would do after school, they'd go home, do a little bit of homework, eat dinner with their family, and kind of come over after. It was tough on them a lot of the time. So we made alterations as we went along, but it would be nice to have a home, double the opportunity to be on that turf field and double the opportunity to have, two fields as your home field. With that being said, the one plus to both of our programs is, with that new fitness center being what it is, that allows us so much more opportunity to spend an hour inside. The softball team spends an hour inside while the boys lacrosse team is practicing, and then to flip-flop that. And right now, because we're going to utilize that so often, that's a whole nother layer of opportunity that we're giving our student athletes. So again, and now if you're playing at 5:30 under lights, suddenly it's not so bad. So it's another really exciting thing. So thank you guys so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
George Capper.
Good evening. My name is George Kapner, as Sandy said. I don't live in town. I am a professional educator in your school system, and I first want to say that for 37 years, other than my family, there is nothing in my life I am more proud of than to tell people that I work in the Westfield school system. I am here today as the boys soccer coach. I have a very interesting perspective, though, because I've coached a number of varsity sports, including the fact that I was the first girls soccer coach. And one of the things I want to bring to your attention is that we began the girls soccer program on that field. From 1980 to 1990, both girls soccer and field hockey shared that field every day. So when Caitlin said we could flip-flop between the fitness center and the field, we can actually do much more than that. If there is no game on a given day, it is very easy for two programs to share that field and the fitness center, and we can accommodate an enormous number of our athletes. One other piece, and Emily kind of touched on it, was that when we were building the girls' soccer program right outside in our backyard, as has been said, one of the things I noticed very quickly was that other students would come out and we'd be starting a game, they'd be leaving school, and they'd stick around and watch. Other teachers would come out and the same thing would happen, and we'd have spectators who we do not have elsewhere. We play our games now, the boys' soccer program at Tamaqua School. The youngsters love coming out and watching us, but my athletes' classmates, only if they're friends do they come all the way over there. When we had these programs right outside the school, the spectators, it was a whole different world. It was phenomenal. Two other points I want to make. Summer practice. When we begin, now our starting date is August 15th, we begin scrimmages of about a week to a week and a half later. So we have 7 to 10 days to figure out which athletes are going to be part of the program, to train those athletes, to create a system of play, get that system of play involved, and create a team. When we have crazy rains, we can't do that. And that just happened this past year. I have to say Sandy did an amazing job with help of Recreation getting us access to Houlihan. So at least, and you know, obviously I'm not talking about just the boys soccer program, there's girls soccer program, field hockey, football, and all the levels. And we had just this first time ever having access to 2 fields, 2 turf fields, just made preparation for the season even much easier. Finally, one last thing. I am at my heart, first and foremost, an educator. You hired me as a math teacher. Well, you didn't. You're all way too young. I was hired as a math teacher, and that's my job. This is my passion, being a coach. One of the things that has always disturbed me is when we have successful programs, which we often do here in Westfield. It's one of the things I'm very proud of. Those athletes miss, in the fall, an incredible amount of school. The more successful they are, strangely enough, the more school they miss. The reason is that because of the time change, they must start state games at 2 o'clock so the game can be completed before the sun goes down. No longer a problem. Instead of having our athletes out of school, we have our athletes in school, and they come out, and we could actually play consecutive state games in the dark and be done easily before the 9:30 time limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sandy and everyone who spoke, for all of the hard work on this presentation, especially during the last several weeks, which have been challenging enough due to the weather. I know I've been on the phone with you, and your phone, 3 phones are going off, and 12 people are in your office, and it's been a challenging time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also would like to thank Dr. Dolan and Mr. Yonero and Mike Morris and the Facilities Committee and Lori Korecki, who I can't see behind the billboard, for the many months of research and putting together these presentations. It's taken a real concerted effort. I also would like to add that it's very difficult to express all of the important aspects of this proposal in a very limited amount of time. We get about 10-15 minutes at a board meeting, which is packed with other agenda items, as you heard this evening, and we still have more to go. So I think that we need to make it very clear that after tonight, if this proposal moves forward, that there will be a continued outreach to individual groups to help walk through the additional details of this plan, to help answer questions and to listen to concerns. That is a very important part of this proposal. As we've heard before, it's very important that we listen and that we help to explain everything that's involved in this proposal, because there is a lot of information in it, and we want to make sure that everyone gets to hear it and talk about it. So that's it. I think I'll trade seats with Dr. Dolan to give her chair back, and we can move to board questions and then to the public. Should I turn that up?
Questions or comments from the board? Okay.
We wore everybody out? I think that's it.
Well, I just have, I think that, my fellow board members certainly know, I think I was the hardest sell, and probably as a result of having the least amount of historical perspective about the turf field and how this proposal came to be. One of the things that I didn't realize until having a conversation with Jane and Rich this week was that we keep talking about how we have one field, and I was always thinking, but we have two. We have Sid Fay and we have Houlihan. And one of the points that Jane made to me was that those are not regulation fields. And so the teams that can practice or play there are very limited. And so that was eye-opening to me, so I just wanted to raise it. And also just the fact that we have such successful Westfield High School teams, and that wouldn't be the case if we didn't have the great youth programs that we have in town. So there was a lot of talk at the last board meeting about, we had a lot of testimony from the Westfield Recreation League programs, and that's a very important component. And I appreciate that testimony as well as the testimony tonight from the high school coaches. That was really helpful to me. I have questions about the lights, but I think there are residents here who are going to talk about that. So I will not make you answer questions twice. But thanks for your hard work and taking the time.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board?
I also would like to thank the coaches for coming out and for the students for coming out, because they certainly brought up some issues that had not been discussed here at the board table or in the facilities meetings that I had been attending as an alternate, so they were intermittent. So I definitely appreciate that, and I think it just highlights some more reasons why the turf field would really be beneficial to our town and is also needed.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll open it up for public comment. Yes.
Been a long day. Scott Robb, 400 Edgar Road. Your backyard, I commend you guys, right? Sports, great. You do a wonderful job. Your backyard, my front yard. That corner where the light post is directly across the street from my front yard. I have no issue with the turf field. Turf away. Turf every field in the town. I don't care. Putting lights there, it's a residential area. There are houses all the way along Rahway, all the way along Trinity, all the way along First Street. I think you need to think this through. I think you need to hold this vote. I don't think you need to ram this into the roofing referendum that you're putting in. I think you're impacting a lot of people. I know you guys need fields. My kids play in sports. They have fields. We have a football stadium right up the street. Put lights there. I've gone back and researched it twice. They tried, were denied. Why? Because residents complained. They don't belong in these areas. I don't know what to tell you. I know the Westfield Soccer Association, they need fields, they want lights, they want turf. They're a corporation. Go through the town. That's where they should go. They shouldn't come to the Board of Education. Your job is education. Promote education. You can justify it, phys ed. I have no problem with that. I do have some problems with the safety. I play on turf fields. I've played on turf fields. I coach on turf fields. 70-degree day, bright sunshine, 12 o'clock. You know what the temperature is on that field? About 180 degrees. Put your kids out there in phys ed for an hour, however long it is. I don't know how long the class is. It's a safety problem. Dehydration. You know, I see the injury side of it. Does stop some injuries. There's studies out there there's more injuries on turf, more knees. I've researched it. I was a bit blindsided Friday night when I received an email that this was going to be discussed and go to a vote. I did see it in the paper 2 weeks ago that there were going to be further discussions tonight. I'm a little disappointed in the fact that we're trying to ram this through. Again, I commend you on trying to do this. I agree with it. The turf, the lights, I'm sorry, I can't agree with that, and I can guarantee you 100% of my neighbors will disagree with lights on this field. It's an inconvenience. I go to practices at Sid Fay and Houlihan till 9:30 at night. There's whistles. Coaches love air horns. They love them. I have practices. They have practices on this field every single night when weather permits, daylight savings permits. They have weekends, and I don't have a problem with it. It's part of the town. But I do have coaches that stand over there and do circuits, and every 15 minutes they wail on their air horn. Inconvenient to me? Sure. Inconvenient to me at 9:30 at night when I'm putting my kids to bed so that they can get a good night's sleep and be ready for school tomorrow. That's important to me. It's a big issue. I think you have a lot of thought ahead of you. I don't think you voting on this tonight to push this into a referendum for a September vote is a good idea. In my opinion, it's my front yard. You have a parking problem. We heard all kinds of discussions. The young lady at the end brought up, what about the green space? Turf's going to take away green space. It's no longer green, it's fake. But you do have a parking problem. You want to have tournaments. Trust me, I've been to them. My daughter plays travel soccer. I go to tournaments at Fort Dix. They have 15 to 20 fields. They don't have enough parking. Go down the street when there's a track meet or some lacrosse tournament at the stadium and tell me how long it takes you to get from Washington past Edison. It takes a long time. Show me how many parking spaces are available within a 6-block radius of that stadium on any given day. Put the lights in the stadium. Revenue. Friday night football. I'm all for it. I'll bring my kids to it. We can't go to games on Saturdays. We play other sports. There's other ways to do this, but I think you need to seriously sit back and consider what I just said. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'll maybe thank you very much for speaking and sharing your concerns. And I just wanted to add that, as I had stated before, that we do feel that it's very important to hear those concerns and take them into consideration because we do want to be very good neighbors. We know that our high school is in a neighborhood, and a lot of discussion has taken place with our architect, our engineer, and with the facilities committee, but we need to continue those discussions to make sure that we are being considerate and good neighbors and take your concerns into account. So thank you.
Could we hear perhaps from the architect with respect to the lighting? And because that was a key concern to the facilities committee. So.
Good evening, everyone. I'm George Duthie with Freytag Weiss Hopkins Duthie. We are the district's architects, fortunate enough. With me tonight, by the way, is Bill Edwards from Edwards Engineering Group, civil engineer, been working with us on the turf field project. I was asked about the lights. The system that we have used in places like Greater Egg Harbor, have been used in Northern Burlington Regional High School, is a system made by Musco called Light Structure Green. It is, and I think you can research this for yourself, It is a system that is best in terms of light spillage, minimizes light spillage. It is a computer-controlled system. It is a system that is state-of-the-art in all respects. The lights are optically designed for each application. They are focused for the individual fields to maximize the lighting on the field and playing surface and minimize any of the spillage, as I said prior. Turning lights off at 9:30, not a problem. Computer-controlled, web-controlled. The lighting is very precisely controlled and is really the state-of-the-art system, the only system we would recommend that you use. Okay, and they do have, by the way, and you can go on the Musco website, and I have some extras of these, anyone who's interested. There are some installations, by the way, of these particular lights, and we have available to us all to speak with Bob Zoller from Musco Lighting. He's an expert on these lights, and he can answer questions about these lights that I obviously cannot. But at Arthur Johnson High School in Clark, not too far from here, this particular lighting system is in use, okay? And there's a bunch of others. Long Branch High School is one. I think there's even another one in Clark, okay? Union City, Toms River, Riverdale, Manchester, lots and lots of places where these lights are in use. Other folks have struggled, obviously, with the same types of issues you are with the lighting, and this is the response to that issue. Okay?
Thank you.
Other questions?
Any questions from the board on lights specifically while he's up there?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from the public? 1 second, Roseanne, go ahead.
I have a comment about the blowhorns. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I don't know why we can't just stop that.
Yeah,
we
I
we
would
could stop that.
say if it does get approved and there are lights, that there will be
Yeah,
no
no blowhorns.
blowhorns used.
Yeah, I absolutely wrote that down.
So did I.
No air horns.
I mean, the fact that they're doing it now is a little troublesome as well, so I think that should be addressed.
Right. Thank you. Yes.
I have a couple of comments. My name is Dave Rogers. I live on 1415 Boynton Avenue. I have two kids in the school system. They're both in middle school now. One's going to high school next year. I think there's no question that having a athletic field like this is a great plus and it's a wonderful thing. One has to say that Westfield school system not only excels in academically, which is no argument, they excel in every field, arts, sports, everything. This is part of a rounded education, there's no question. If we have a new sports field, it will help enormously with our sports program. But I do have a couple of questions with it. It's not 2 years ago we had such terrible fiscal problems that we were laying off teachers. And everybody was wondering where the next penny was coming from. This is a very expensive field. Our school infrastructure really hasn't had a lot of attention for a long time. We built Lincoln School. We now have a proposal to repair some roofs. I mean, we have roofs leaking in the school. I really wonder whether $3.3 million spent here is the best place to put the money. Are there other projects that we need in the school in the short term just to keep our school running properly? We have extra kids, we need more fields. We have extra kids, our facilities are also in trouble. Should that money be put somewhere else in the facilities? All these questions come to mind. We get a proposal like this, it's wonderful. It would definitely be really good for the system, but are there other projects which would be just as good or better? We don't know this as members of the public. Is there an overall plan? I mean, do you guys sit around and look at the next 5 years and say, well, we've got these other projects coming up. Should we send out a bond issue now? Because in the future, we're going to have to go back to the town. Is the town going to be receptive to a bond issue after bond issue after bond issue? We talk about the bond value coming down over time, but of course, we'll be putting new bonds out there. There will be new projects that have to be done to keep the schools running. So my question really is, the strongest question is, I hope you guys, and I trust you guys, are really considering this is the most important project that we can do at this point. This is the best use of our money. If we're going to go out to the town for a bond, we should certainly consider the fiscal situation And we can't expect to go back to the town over and over for more and more bond issues, you know, from year to year to year. So we want to be careful. I mean, you know, don't you shoot yourselves in the foot by having a bond issue go out now, and, you know, you can't have a new bond later for something which is like a leaking roof, important issue. I would say lastly, I would prefer to see the two bond issues separated. I don't believe the roof issue and the field issue should be put together. I think they are entirely different kinds of projects, and I think it's only fair to the taxpayers in Westfield to be able to judge each project and vote on them separately, because I don't think they're the same thing. And I think putting them together is a disservice. We should separate them. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to go first, or you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, let's start with your first primary issue or question, which was, are there other projects, as I understood your question, are there other projects and things we should be spending the money on? So, just to give you how this evolved into this current bond issuance. When we went through our roof project, we looked for ways to fix the roofs within the budget. And I'm not going to go through all of that, but you may recall solar discussions, you may recall discussions about how much it would cost to fix the roofs annually. And we concluded economically that as a district we were better off issuing a bond to fix the roofs rather than spend approximately $1 million a year just to keep up. It didn't make fiscal sense to us to just try to keep up. So then we're faced with a bond issuance. We absolutely sat around as a facilities committee and discussed, if we are doing a bond issuance, what else is there that is a large project that we probably could only finance through a bond issuance? And we went about that somewhat mechanically. We do have a 5-year facility plan. We have a list of projects. It's broken down by school. Its genesis is reaching out to principals at each of the schools each year, asking them what they want, asking them what they need, and establishing a list. And we go through that as a facilities committee, and we ask ourselves, okay, in conjunction with the finance committee, what surplus funds might we have each year, and what can we do with them, and what do we need to do with them from a facilities perspective? So I think Jane mentioned a couple of things. Boilers at a couple of the elementary schools we're funding through operating funds. Lockers at the high school to accommodate increase in population we're undertaking through operating funds, which we have put into a maintenance account. There is a long list of projects like that. You could argue we could bond them all and just do them. We are trying not to do that. I don't anticipate doing that, and I don't think anybody on the facilities or finance committee has a notion that any of those would be appropriate to put out to bond. We did not feel similarly about a turf field. The dollar amount of the turf field is larger, I believe, than any of the other facilities projects that we have slated for the next 5 years. When we balance the needs of what we need to do each year, I don't know that we would ever put a turf field ahead of a boiler. When we can do them both, it's a different conversation. We didn't feel we could do them both through an operating budget, so we thought about the bond. From our perspective, it is unique is the wrong word, but it is a unique opportunity in a sense because it is a project that we wouldn't tend to bump other things to do. In order of magnitude or a project of this scale, we felt it was the right opportunity. And remember, from a facilities perspective, this isn't a new conversation. So we didn't say, hey, we have a bond issuance, let's add something onto it, what will we do? Not at all. The fields have been an ongoing topic of conversation. The condition of the fields, the usage of the fields, the increased usage of the fields, how much we spend for the betterment of the fields, what happens when we replace a field, a grass field, how long does it last, what's the cost benefit of that? So it's a great question. Absolutely, a lot went into the thought process behind adding the turf field to the bond issuance. Your your second comment was around one vote versus two. I don't have a simple answer to that question. I have heard from many people many differing points of view. I'll support roofs, I won't support fields. I'll support fields, I won't support roofs. I don't know how to decide that one is more merited than others. I could tell you we need the roofs. I could tell you, in a sense, we need the field. Not in the same way, in my mind, as we need the roofs. As I explained to you just a minute ago, we went through a process to conclude that we wanted to add the field to the bond issuance, but we absolutely did not conclude that from a district-wide perspective, one should be deemed as more valuable or more important than the other. And that's why we've combined them. I don't know if you want to add to that, Jane, or were there
No,
other?
thank you. I think you've covered all the things that I was thinking of. You know, as I had pointed out earlier, that since I've been sitting on facilities in 2006, the two main topics that come up time and time again for looking for long-range solutions have been the roof replacements and turf discussion. And also going back to 2006, was the time when I first joined the board, was the discussion of the bond referendum for Lincoln School and the Roosevelt and Edison renovations, and the conversation feels very similar because they were two very different needs. But all priorities, all working towards the benefit of our students, and at that time too, it was also determined that making it one question, while the needs are different, the value is the same as far as priority coming from the committee.
Thank you. Yes.
Did the committee actually talk about the impact of the lights on the neighboring homes? I mean, I just have no idea. Is it like going to be bright light in the homes? Like,
I mean, I think
what is
maybe we
the-
can go back to George. I think we had compared it to, say, a street light being on the outside of the field. That doesn't have spillage into homes, that within the field, it's sort of a similar situation without spillage leaving the field. Maybe you could help me with that, but we can certainly, you know, articulate that a little bit more as we have discussions with our engineers and.
So I guess just to frame that question maybe more specifically, if I may. Could you describe, George, how, we're not lighting people, so how focused are these lights? So they're not laser beams, but they aren't quite street lamps in the sense that they're designed
Yeah,
to
street lamps are
cast
designed to
out,
go out.
right? There's somewhere in between. Can you tell us where that is?
Yeah.
And then at the same time,
Like
tell
not
us,
going beyond the street lamp was my point.
at the same time, maybe tell us, you know, why four and why where they are.
Sure. Great questions. I'm just want to just pass this around. And I'll explain. I think I picked this photograph really just because even though it's not Westfield, obviously, it does illustrate the effect that Musco achieves, and can pass these around for anyone who'd like to see them. I know it's hard to see from here.
Go ahead and pass it. Just
Why don't we pass them around? I have a few, so if you don't mind. Thank you. Just pass them around. I have another one for the board. I have several up here. The only way I can describe this, because I have done similar projects, as I mentioned earlier. Our firm has worked with Musco on every one of the football stadium projects that we've done, because they are, as I said earlier, the best company. And we've looked at others, believe me, like Sportslighter and some others. And Bill, I think, will concur with that opinion. But they are designed individually, custom designed for your site. And they do, because of an optical design that they do, custom for your site, are able to focus on your playing field and maintain a focused light beam in the areas that need the light, while reducing the amount of light that can escape beyond the lights themselves. They have a very sharp, what we call a cutoff, okay, which is the illuminated area versus the dark area, okay? And that's what we see with the Musco lights. And I think you'll find in a residential area that you will notice there's a light. You will look over and it's like seeing a lit up, you know, part of the town. But I would suspect you will not get light in your windows of your houses, the lights won't be aimed at your houses at all. And I would expect minimal spillage to the residential area surrounding the high school. Okay?
George, I would imagine you do tests once they start installing the lights. Is that done in different locations?
Yes.
Where they'll come out and welcome neighbors to...
Great question. Musco does have a commissioning process that they use, right, and Bill, and they do, in fact, adjust the lights for your site once they get there. Correct, Bill?
Yes.
And, well, Bill, come up.
Lighting systems even
Yeah.
installed, we actually have it, point plotting, point by point of the foot candles laid out on the exact site. So we'll know, line by line, around the perimeter of the site, how many foot candles of light there are. Typically, we try to keep the lighting levels along the property lines below what the town's minimum is, or maximum is rather, whatever their ordinance is. Usually it's around 0.2 or 0.3 foot candles. We'll usually get down about 0.1 foot candles, which is almost immeasurable. So in terms of your concerns over there being light in your yard, there won't be light. Your yard won't be lit up, okay? The lights are very focused. They're down on the field. I'm not saying that you won't stand in your yard and see the lights, just like you look up at the sky and you see the stars. But the stars aren't casting illumination on your property. Okay, so it's not going to be like your properties are going to be in direct light. They won't be. You might get some little bit of illumination and reflection from the field, but these lights, as you can see in the picture, they're highly aimed. If you look at where the poles are, behind the poles is practically dead black. And if you look at where the light poles are on the sketch, the light poles themselves are along the edge of the field and are also along the right-of-way line. So
How high are they?
they're about 70 to 80 feet high. They need to be up that high to illuminate the ball play. Otherwise, if the light goes above the ball, you don't see the ball. You can't have the ball go into darkness and go, hey.
And how high was the picture taken?
These lights here?
How high was the picture taken from, of that picture?
It's probably about, maybe about 200 feet high. Ballpark, I mean, I'm just looking perspective here. Doesn't exactly say. But more importantly, if you look in the photograph, you can actually see the level of illumination behind it.
That picture's not showing me what's behind it. That picture's showing the stadium, that's it. So, again, I appreciate what you said and how you're saying it, but...
Your concern is exactly...
Once those lights are installed to be tested, those lights are in, bottom line.
Right. But before those lights ever get installed, we'll run a point-by-point analysis, and we'll know exactly every foot candle on a grid across the entire site. And Musco, their system is so focused today, compared to the way it was 10 years ago, that the spillage behind the lights is really very minimal. That's why the lights have to be up that high, so they can aim down rather than out. So the lights are actually higher so they can aim more straight down rather than broadcasting outward.
I have a question. It's related to the lights, but not directly. I mean, from what I understood from Mr. Robb's comments was that it's not only a concern about the lights, it's what comes with the lights. The nighttime activity, the whistles, the air horn, which we briefly talked about. I also understand from our perspective that we have a timing issue. We need to vote on this to get it on, because then we have to go to the county superintendent, I believe, to get it on the September ballot. So we're in a time crunch, essentially. What is our ability between now and the September vote to give the resident, to meet with them and to give them some comfort level that, the lighting, the technical issues about the lighting, but that the concerns that come with the late night play can be adequately addressed?
So I guess there's a couple points to that. One is we can continue speaking with any residents or anyone up until we vote on the bond issuance, because everybody will take any information they have and incorporate it into their thought process as to whether or not they'll approve a bond for this. A more technical question would be, we are going to submit a plan, if this is approved, to the state. I would assume we can make modifications. Vince, can you tell us, or George, maybe more likely, or Bill, how broad could those modifications be? So, right, I'm sure we can't make large modifications, but what can we do and when can we do it?
I'll try to answer a question for you. When we submit to the state, the plan is a schematic plan, like the one you see here tonight, very, very much, and adjustments can certainly be made. And I would say that you would be able to make fairly significant adjustments as long as the scope of the project that you submit remains relatively intact. The main scope of the project. It's a field, it has a bleacher component. Yeah. Can you remove things like lights and not have a whole project like you submitted? You probably could do that. Could you take bleachers away? You probably could do that. Could you reduce the size of the field? Maybe. But the real issue is, do you maintain the project at the scope level that you have presented to the Department of Education, so you don't have to resubmit a new application.
And that could go on for how long?
You really could continue the design process up until the time you go out to bid. I mean, fine-tuning of the design, technologies change, things could be different a year from now that we don't know about right now. So we could continue the evolution, the evolution of the project up until the day we go to bid, I would say.
Thank you. Does that
I'm
answer your
sorry.
question, Gretchen?
Yes. When do we need to go to bid if the board were to approve it, and when would we go to bid?
Town approves it.
After the town approves it?
No.
No.
There's not a town approval process.
Well, after
No,
the
you need
vote.
to vote.
The
The vote.
After the
Yeah.
referendum. So we wouldn't go out for bid, correct me if I'm wrong, George, but I think what you have said all along is we wouldn't go out for bid until we had approval of the bonds. We could do preliminary work. I mean, we could do it however much work we want to do. It's then a question of, if the bond doesn't pass, how much work have you done that you didn't want to do or need to do?
Right.
And what's the cost of that? So
Right.
we'd have that conversation.
Sure. We've done some preliminary work already, as you know. But I would expect, if you approve the project and move forward with the bond question in September, then you would authorize the full-blown construction documents, which would take, I think, several months to do, right, Bill? We would be ready to bid in the spring, I would say, the spring of 2013, Bill? Would I be speaking?
Well, we just finished the project in Hopewell Valley, and from the time the project was finished, we expedited, actually, and finished the design in 2 months. So it really depends on your schedule, but we don't want to race a design to the finish line only to hit winter.
Yeah.
It doesn't achieve anything.
No.
So we want to take a look at when do you want to be on the field, and kind of count back from that date, figure out when do we need to start. Beginning to end, we're probably looking at a 3 to 4 month process, most likely 4 months, with all the other ancillary construction, the lighting and the bleachers and the surrounding earthwork.
Your completion would coincide, I mean, we would shoot for, obviously, a full sports season of some sort and say, this is the season we'd like to try to be ready for. So fall season, spring season.
Right. Thank you. Please.
My name's Barry Fox. I live on Norwood Terrace. We have lights in town now, so if you go to Houlihan Sid Bay and you go in the street, there's no overflow into the street. In fact, if you go into the church parking lot, there's no overflow. No.
Absolutely.
If you turn your lights off on the street, the light does not light up the street. It doesn't. It doesn't. I've done it. So we have lights in town that everybody here can go look at, and you'll see. And that's old technology. It's not new technology.
Let's put them in Edison.
It's all right with me. You can put them on every field in the town.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Anyone on the board? Roseanne?
We have gotten some emails, like you said, or people you've been talking to, both pros and cons and various points of view. But some of the comments that we did get were about parking again, and how the potential of a lighted field would, or the turf field and the lighted field might increase the usage and therefore create additional parking problems. And I know Facilities has talked a bit about that, so I'm thinking maybe this might be a good time to talk about why we don't see that as a tremendous issue. except perhaps if there is a soccer tournament where we would not invite 15 teams because we don't have 15 fields, but we could have a soccer tournament, but that won't be every week, probably not even every year. But from the day-to-day, or the frequent use, the day-to-day use, I'm wondering if we want to talk about that, which I guess is in line with Gretchen's question of it's not only the lights, but what comes with the lights.
So we did talk also about the parking, and in conjunction with Sandy's presentation, and also a point that Mr. Kaffner made, that the field is already utilized, just not by as many teams as we can accommodate. But as far as games go, practices, where you would not see congestion, which tend to run after school activities, and around 5:30, 6 o'clock, that wouldn't be an issue. It would be more of an issue, as you said, on the occasions when we have a tournament. And at those times, there wouldn't be high school activities going on, so there should be, particularly with the added parking at the high school, then adequate parking within the facility as well as the armory. And also, we had talked a little bit about making sure that if there's something happening at the armory, that is well coordinated, that there is not two things happening at the same time. I mean, it involves coordination with anything that's going on. It's important to take that into consideration as well. I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
No, I think
so.
I think that's right. Anyone else on the board, in the public? All right. Mitch, could you direct us to the appropriate resolution?
Yes, on page 5, number 1 on the facilities resolution. It also refers to administrative memo number 1, which was changed. You received a revised memo today at your table. We need a motion.
What are the updates that we received in the amended copy? The name of the school.
Changes Edison to Westfield High School.
I see where it is.
So this is a resolution involving the project that we just discussed about in the turf field with lights. Before I make a motion, I would like to just add that from our discussion tonight, that it is important that even through this resolution, as we move forward with discussions over the summer, up until the bond vote of September, that we do continue to keep the open dialogue and take all of this into consideration and make sure that we do this as a good neighbor.
And is one of the things that we can continue to consider whether we put this forth as one question or two, or does the resolution tonight bind us to put it forth as one question?
No.
That's a conversation we can continue to have?
Actually, we have up to June 26th in order to change the scope, the dollar amount we're going to go to the public with.
But let's be clear on the answer, though. So this resolution moves them both, combines the roofs and the turf field.
But, right, so there has been discussion, and I understand that it's been the position of this board in the past, and we have two separate issues going to bond, that we do not value them separately, and so they are combined in one question. But I'm just saying, does this resolution bind us to that for the roofs and the turf field? I understand that it means we're going forward with the vote for the public in September on both issues.
If we took no further action as a board, it would be one vote. We have not slated further discussion or vote to change that.
As it would stand after the vote tonight, it would be one question.
Correct.
But we have the ability through June to talk about it a little bit further if we deem it necessary.
Right, in terms of changing, I didn't really ask that specific question in terms of one vote versus two. We could, up to June 26th, change the dollar amount or modify the scope somewhat, but I did not ask that particular question, and I can.
I don't see in this administrative memo where it says anything about the scope of the bond. What I just read.
The resolution we passed about a month before referred to the roofs, and that authorizes us to submit that schematic proposal to the state for approval, just like this authorizes us to submit the schematic proposal for the fields. And there are significant details in that proposal.
Don't we independently vote on the language that would be on the bond referendum?
Well, that'll be supplied to us by the bond attorney.
But do we have to authorize it separately?
Our bond resolutions authorize bond counsel to take all actions necessary to move forward the bond, as well as authorizing the business administrator and officers to take actions necessary to move forward the bond. If technically we need to approve the language that will appear in the voting booth, I'm sure we can do that, and it's not available tonight, so we're not doing it tonight. So you need to check that.
I'm not
but
asking for
We
it.
don't have to take any more
That's
formal
what I thought.
action. We have
Right.
enough formal action now.
Right. So what are you asking? I don't understand.
I just thought I had remembered, well, when we have any resolution on, in prior budget votes, we've had to approve language that authorizes the amount of money. And I thought that maybe we had also approved language for the referendum itself. But perhaps I'm mistaken.
I mean, I can check on that.
May just be my memory. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
But I don't see that this binds us one way or the other.
Yeah.
I don't see that the language here says anything about combination or one question, or that the authorization resides other than with the board.
We'll go back to the facilities resolutions. Let's say resolutions approving schematic plans authorizing application to be made to the Commissioner of Education for approval of an amendment to the long-range facility plan, the educational plans to the extent applicable, and the schematic plans for the turf fields as part of the 2012 capital improvement project as an other capital project in accordance with the Educational Facilities Construction, et cetera, Act, to hold a special election on September 24. So I took that to mean we're adding this to what we previously approved. If that's not accurate, then we need to know that, but...
That's my interpretation, too.
Okay.
I mean, we can check on that.
And this, what I just read, incorporates Administrative Memo Number 1 as revised.
I don't see that it binds us one way or the other.
So, again, any action we approve, the board will abide by. We can come back and change, and we could re-vote on a matter every day, right? We could vote something's green today, it's red tomorrow, it's blue the next day. We tend not to do that, but if we approve this moving forward, well,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Go back to all the resolutions we take as a board. None of them say, and therefore this resolution shall bind us as a board.
No,
It's not the way
That's
resolutions
no,
work.
and I don't mean to be flip or suggest that we're going to change our mind every other day. I'm just saying clearly there's a lot of talking to be done about this particular issue between now and September. So as we gather information, I would believe it's our responsibility as a board to revisit it if we can. So my question was simply, is that a piece of it that we can revisit? And it sounds like the answer is yes.
Sounds like the answer is yes, although I think I heard Vince say he didn't technically ask the Commissioner of Elections, could we separate them in the future? His belief is we have until late June. You can
Yeah.
confirm that?
I can check with our
Board.
attorney in terms of the next
George might be able to
steps.
help.
Let me try to see if I can help you out, yeah.
I don't know why you're saying separate them, because I
Yeah.
don't see where it binds us as one here.
Sorry. By my past experience, what I think you're being asked to do tonight is to just approve the submission of the plans
Right.
to the Department of Education so that you can get the Department of Education to approve your project as another capital project. The form of the referendum question, including the specific amount, whether you have one question or two or more than that, however you choose to proceed as a board, is prepared by your bond counsel and will be brought before you as a separate action after your bond counsel prepares that. And then that question that your bond counsel writes for you and that you approve will be given to the clerk of elections and will be the question that appears on the ballot, okay? And that has to be done by that June deadline that was referenced earlier this evening. Okay, so you do have some time to make a decision about one question, two question, final amount, things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
So,
Okay, not a bad memory.
so tonight's resolutions then only approve moving this forward. We'll vote on specific language for the resolution when?
That's what it sounds like.
When the bond counsel brings it.
Prior to June 26th.
Okay. So at this time, I would like to make a motion to approve facilities item number 1 for this resolution.
Second.
Questions?
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
Motion carries. Anything else from the superintendent?
No, that is it for the superintendent reports.
That is, the board approved the minutes of the board meeting held on May 1, 2012, and private minutes of May 1, 2012. Thank you.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Absolutely at the end of the meeting. Typically, the superintendent reports do not run this long.
But we did it special for you guys.
We're almost there.
Good job.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. I don't know that the rest of this is going to take long. I think it's 5 to 10 minutes at most.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll hustle through.
Paul's not going through the curriculum.
Rated this long.
And
What do you want to do?
Paul's not going through the curriculum again. Not doing that.
Just working.
Just continue.
Asking it.
Sure. So you had asked if you're able to speak. Is there a topic you'd like to raise that we could reorder the agenda to get you out of here, recognizing it's 11 p.m.?
No, that's fine. We'll continue. We'll just speak when appropriate.
It's up to you. Get you out of here earlier.
Your superintendent's a little worried about school tomorrow. Okay, so I don't have to worry at all.
All right.
All done.
Welcome to the real world.
They'll be ready at 3 in the morning.
They're going to go out after the meeting.
Just waking up.
They don't go out till 12, so they're all set.
Night's young for these guys.
All right, then let's continue. Personnel, Jane.
Okay. At this time, I would like to ask for the board's, make a motion to ask for the board's approval of personnel items number 1 through 21, as well as addendum item number 22 that's here somewhere.
I got a question, please. On
First, we
num-
got a second, we got a second?
Second.
Yeah, we do.
I speak. Number 12, and I think I'll address this to Dr. Dolan or to Sandy. So we're asked to vote on fall coaching assignments. And one of the things that I've asked about over time while being on the board is what the criterion, is there a formal set of criterion by which Sandy, yourself, or whoever is in charge evaluates coaches for appointments or reappointments? So could you give us a little update on where we are in establishing that criterion and whether that was applied to these fall coaching assignments?
Sure. Actually, Sandy has been at work at that, and I believe I'll let her talk about it just a little bit.
Getting pretty comfortable up here.
Soon you'll run for the board.
So the answer is yes and yes and yes. When I first came into this position about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, one of the first things I did was look at how some things were currently done and how I would like to change some things. And I guess because I've been around for a little while, a lot of those answers I already had in my mind. But the evaluations and the coaching criteria were definitely one of the big sticking points to me as an administrator. And so, to go back to that last year, I asked several coaches to make up committees on evaluations, on the handbooks, on receiving coaches' letters, awards, and things like that. And one of the committees was evaluations, and Caitlin just left, but Caitlin McDonald was the chair of that committee. I thought that it was important to get the input from the coaches. I thought that it was important that they had a voice to see how they were going to be evaluated. And we came up with, I believe, some great evaluative tools and forms. We came up with a form for me to evaluate the head coach, for me to evaluate the assistant coach. I came up with a definite plan of action about department meetings. There was really never a consistent department meeting. I've been making it a point to have preseason meetings for all the coaches. During the season meetings, bring the coaches in and speak to them in the office, not just out on the field where we could get interrupted several times. And then postseason meetings. The preseason meetings were basically with the entire season, but the postseason meetings got a little bit more intimate, and they were just with each individual coach. And at that time, my plan is to hand out these evaluations. So here we are, finally have them written out, and this spring is when the coaches will receive the new evaluations, and they're basically the criteria are the expectations of the athletic administration, the professional responsibility expectations, seasonal expectations, the postseason expectations. And I think that the big sticking point is the communication with our student athletes. I think, to me, that is the biggest factor that we need to improve on. I think our coaches need to communicate better with our student athletes, where our student athletes don't feel threatened in any way, that if they communicate their feelings, they would be penalized by communicating. And that is part of our forms. And on some of the forms, especially from the form where I would evaluate a coach, we have all that criteria that they adhere to the board policies, and I think that the big thing here is that the expectations, what I expect from them, and what our student athletes should expect from them. So we do have that, and I actually, to some coaches' dismay, I prepared 2 different types of evaluation forms for the students to evaluate the coaches. And I know, and I thought that was very important. I definitely did fight for that. I feel very comfortable with that. I think that, as these young men and women will attest to, that they're in college, we used to evaluate our professors all the time after every course. And I just don't see why we shouldn't allow the student athletes to have a voice. I think that you can definitely tell, a coach can definitely tell if it's just to vent or if there's some constructive feedback there for the coach to have. But I think that every coach should aspire to be better. And so that's the reason why I made those two different tools. And I made two different tools because the one tool for the students to evaluate the coaches is 4 open-ended questions. And then the other tool is basically, a circle the number kind of tool. And I let the coaches decide which one they would like to use. The coaches handed them out. The students do not write their name on there, and they're available from me to look at them when I need to.
Thank you. So I guess that brings up a couple of questions. I used, because we've got the coaching assignments on here, I kind of used the athletics as the application here, but I could make an argument, at least in my opinion and for discussion, that this kind of a criterion should be set for all the stipends that perhaps we put out there in the district, because we pay teachers their salaries, and then we pay lots of additional stipends that we are asked to vote on. Yet I don't think I don't think I ever have enough information to vote on these kinds of appointments or reappointments or assignments. We're certainly taking it for the word of Sandy or anybody else that's coming before us, but I think there should be some formal written documentation about why somebody is being reappointed or appointed to get a stipend. With respect to the coaches, so do we need to sit and establish a policy that there's going to be this formal criterion established, there's going to be a review, when we're asked to vote, are we going to see that document? Or will we, by the fact that we get the list of who to approve, will that be your certification that we should appoint them? I asked a lot of questions there, but I'm trying to get a sense of how you see this working.
Right. To a few different points. One, to expand it to different stipends. That would be a rather elaborate task, and the stipends really range the gamut. Some people, it's a pretty specific focus job, and then I would say that coaches run to the other extreme, where that's an adult who's in charge of a group of students and their work for months. So would every stipend position require a similar type of evaluation? Perhaps not. I mean, because again, there are very different ones. Can we look and make determinations like that? Sure. I mean, another group to look at could be some of those under fine arts, for example. But then there are all levels of evaluations that would have to be done. So yeah, can we start that process? Yes. Do I think we can have that all in place by September? I honestly don't. Some of your other questions, actually, you know what, I'd have to consult a labor attorney as to how much would be brought forward and how much is me certifying that if it's on this agenda, there's a reason why it's on this agenda, and that work has been done beforehand.
So with respect to what Sandy just talked about, is the assumption that you have done these reviews for these coaching assignments? And yeah, I guess the point that I'm trying to bring out is I feel, especially on coaches, right, because it's something that's important to me. I feel like very often the coaches are reappointed through inertia and not through the constant reevaluation of their performance. And for me, it's not just about winning. Certainly winning is important, but I think you covered lots of different things. It's about winning and respect and the way they treat the kids and the way they treat the parents and all these other things. And I think it's important, but I think lots of, over the years, I keep hearing from folks that have gone through the program. Yeah, X is again and again and again. And maybe it shouldn't be again.
Well, in the last year and a half, actually, we've had many changes. And I can only tell you that there are more to come. So it is not inertia. I am certainly not intimidated about making change.
I think you've proven that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is it raining?
Thank you, Sandy. Question for Sandy, or?
No, I have a comment to the board.
Please.
Thank you. I want to be very careful about the board and the board's role in something like this. While I think it's critical to have a tool for evaluation and to be able to examine it and examine it against a standard and set an expectation, the board's role is to receive recommendations from the superintendent. And the board holds the superintendent responsible for exercising the evaluation, making sure that it's in place. And I think the board has to remember its role in terms of holding that responsibility at a high regard.
That's a good point. Thank you, Sandy.
No.
Well, not right now, because we're in the middle
just have
of
to
a
finish
discussion on
what we're
something.
doing.
Of
We have
a
a motion on the
motion.
table.
Related to the superintendent's report.
Well, it's,
It's okay. We're close to.
we have a motion on the table.
Yeah, let's finish.
Couple of minutes.
And the superintendent's going to speak.
Yes, actually, while we have a motion on the table and a second, and it
Yes.
has to do with personnel, so there are two retirements, which I will speak briefly to. Tonight I announce with regret the retirement of Sharon Reynolds, who is a vocal teacher at Westfield High School. Sharon joined the Edison staff 23 years ago, where she established strong rapport with middle school students, both in the classroom and on the stage. She later moved to the high school, where she nurtured a strong vocal program with high standards. Her expertise and passion for music translated well to her students and consistently produced quality concerts and performances. Sharon's students have won numerous awards at the Paper Mill Playhouse Rising Star competitions, as we discussed earlier, and a number of them have experienced success on Broadway. And I'm not quite sure how many music teachers are privileged enough to be able to say that. We certainly wish Sharon the best in her retirement. I would also like to acknowledge the retirement of Emily Stile, a teacher in the English department at Westfield High School. Emily has taught in Westfield High School for the past 9 years, but her career in education spanned more than 40 years. And while teaching in Westfield High School, Emily has facilitated monthly faculty conversations about equity and diversity in education. Her retirement plans will continue work in this area. She is the co-director for the National SEED project. SEED stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity. And this organization recently received a very large Kellogg Foundation grant, and so she's going to be focusing her efforts on that going forward. So we wish Seed and Emily the best of luck in the future.
Big losses at the high school.
Any questions on those now?
Any other
That's it.
questions, comments?
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstack?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
All right, before we move to facilities, there was members of the audience who wanted to ask questions. We'll go back to our normal agenda, which brings us to the Facilities Committee, right?
We covered everything there?
Done.
Which brings us to long-range planning. Jenny?
Thank you. Long-range planning will be seeking a meeting possibly next week. I'll be communicating to you. I believe we have data available for review. We'll see whether or not it suffices for us. We really would like to get it on the agenda in either of the 2 meetings in June, so that the public can be made aware of the outcome of our enrollment report. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Policies, Roseanne.
Policy, okay, let's start with. I would ask the board to approve the guidelines and procedures for 2012-2013 student activity fee.
Second.
And now I'll have a little discussion. In the policy, it states that every year, Dr. Dolan needs to take a look at the activity fee, the policy, the guidelines and procedures, and make a recommendation to the board whether to keep them, change them in any way, or get rid of them. And it has been her recommendation to keep them as is. And the policy committee discussed briefly, well, not briefly, discussed at their meeting, her recommendation, and we agree and would ask the board to approve it for first reading. Do you have anything else to add, Dr. Dolan?
No, other than the recommendation, which we actually discussed during the budget process. Actually, a recommendation was made after our meeting that perhaps next year, as we discuss it during the budget process, and if we determine again to make it part of the revenue for the budget, if we do, that perhaps we should approve this at that time, which does make sense because it's part of one process.
Sure.
But other than that, I don't have anything to add.
So can we vote on that one?
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
And then I'd like the board to approve for first reading the following policy as attached, 2361, acceptable use for computer network, computers, and technology resources.
Second.
As you all know, we have had a large technology initiative, and along with that initiative, the policy committee has been charged to look at not only the acceptable use policy, but many other policies that relate to technology. This particular policy has been fast-tracked because there has been a change in the Children's Internet Safety Law, and we therefore need to include those updates to the law now so that we can have it in place by July 1st, so that we can then apply for E-rate, which is discounts on
Some money that's given back from the taxes that are paid for telecommunications, so it's money that is received by school districts to help pay for some internet services.
So if this policy were not approved by July 1st, with the new additions of the law, we would not be eligible for that E-rate, which we want to be eligible for. I am giving you all of this context because the policy committee, you may see this policy again in the near future as the policy committee relooks at it to see how it fits in with our larger technology plan and how it fits in with the other policies we will be looking at and or writing. With that said, I would like to make a small amendment to the first red, the last line in the first paragraph, which is red. I think it, when I reread, after all the additions, the revisions we made, I reread this when I got it, and I think that that last sentence does not say exactly what we meant to say. So I would like the sentence to read, "The board recognizes that technology allows pupils access to information sources that may not have been pre-screened by educators."
Second.
Period.
Oh, I'm not finished yet.
No, there's one more sentence.
However, the board expects that all educators will be conscientious in supporting students' learning through access, while also protecting them from harmful information.
Now, Mitch.
No, I said it.
What page is that on?
Page 1,
It's
paragraph
not,
1.
I'm adding that. I'm suggesting we add that.
She's going to get it right, I guarantee.
She's going to give you a copy.
Gonna be
Yes.
Dictating.
Total confidence.
Now, again, this is first reading, so if somebody doesn't like a word in that sentence, we can change it for the final reading if it doesn't change the complete meaning of the sentence. But I think that is more in line with what we meant.
So after conscientious, what next?
You'll get it to
Send
us.
to us.
In
I'm
supporting-
voting, come on, I
in
want to know what it
supporting-
says.
In supporting students' learning through access, while also protecting them from harmful
Watch again.
information.
Again, no, I'm just kidding.
I slowed down because you were still writing.
Yeah, it's good.
Right.
Ready for questions?
I am.
I have just a few.
Yes.
So in our new technology initiative, we are hopeful, I think, that people have their own devices, right? At least it's a component of the program. Is it, if a student brings in their own device, is it subject to, for example, it's no longer confidential, so we could search their computer if we believe they were doing something wrong?
You can go.
I was going to say, that was sort of what Roseanne was referencing before, that that's part of what policies is trying to, will be trying to struggle with.
Okay,
So that would probably be something we will revisit,
okay,
because case law is being made even as we sit here.
that's fine. That's what
And
you,
ad hoc technology will also be involved in the generation of that.
Probably be a separate policy on bring your own devices.
Right.
Right.
Which, you're exactly right, which
Right.
then may change some of this, and might have to be spelled out.
Right.
so similarly, where we talk about installing technology protection measures on all computers, obviously, we haven't done that on bring your own devices.
Right.
So that'll be another one,
Right.
just to think about. Okay, my comments actually were all kind of relating to that, so
Okay.
I can get those in when you're working on that.
That would be great.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, I did have one. In district website, well, we talk about the district will maintain a website, individual schools will maintain a website.
Could you give us a location?
Page
2 of 5.
In the regulations.
I just had 2 questions on that page.
Mhm.
It's under item C, district website. Did we talk at all about having a requirement that teachers have a website?
This policy has not been updated for additional thinking
Okay.
from a technology perspective with either new devices, a new network, or guest privileges,
Okay.
or setting standards or benchmarks for the website.
So we'll think about that, too.
It is on the agenda.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. That was it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So can we vote on that
Sure.
for first reading?
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
I would like to ask the board to approve for final reading the following policies as attached: 3125, 5533, 7434, and 7436.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
The policy committee will be meeting on Thursday again to review the broader picture of the technology policies that may or may not be rewritten or revised, as well as to revisit some of the other policies we are waiting for more information on to bring forward to the board.
Thank you. Curriculum, instruction, and programs. Ann?
I would ask the board to approve for first reading the following curricula. Under mathematics, we have math 6, 7, 8, and pre-algebra. Under world language, we have Italian 3 honors and Spanish 5 AP. And under science, we have intermediate science. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. To discuss the mathematics curricula, I would like to invite Regina Keycheck, who is our supervisor of mathematics, up to the podium. We have some pretty big changes in these curriculum. No, we did not.
You're not going to give us a test, are you?
Virginia, do you want to sit? Are you all right?
I'm much better standing.
Okay,
Thank you for
okay,
asking me.
all right.
I appreciate that. Okay, good evening. It is still evening, is it not?
It's
more than 19 minutes.
almost.
You have 18 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
close.
Well, I will speak quickly, even though Paul would ask me not to. Gretchen is passing around a schematic that the SIP committee thought might be useful for you as I start to discuss what's going on with the intermediate math program. So I'm going to begin with this, and I'm hoping it's useful to you. If you look at this schematic, the top row of boxes indicates our current math sequence in middle school. We have a Math 6 course, and it's a heterogeneous course where we have students of all levels grouped together, coming out of 5th grade into 6th. And then in 7th and 8th grade, we have 3 levels. We have something called algebra prep, algebra preparation, part 1 and part 2. That's a 7th and 8th grade sequence. We have algebra 1, part 1 and part 2. And then we have algebra 1 with advanced topics, part 1 and part 2. And a number of you have had students go through the middle school, so you're somewhat familiar with that sequence. What we are proposing going forward, and you know when we spoke about the Common Core state standards for mathematics that are being implemented over these next couple of years, to align to those standards, we have to do some changing, and particularly in the middle level. So what we're proposing, and the curricula that you have in front of you that you just approved for first reading, are different in that we now have a Math 6 course, which is somewhat different from the current Math 6 course. And then students will go to one of 2 classes in 7th grade. One will be Math 7 and one will be Pre-Algebra 7. And then students, that will be next year. The current 7th graders will move on to the 8th grade courses that are currently in place because our 7th and 8th grade courses are in a sequence. So once you begin that sequence in 7th grade, you complete it in 8th grade. At the end of next year, these courses will no longer exist in 8th grade, and the new 8th grade courses will be Math 8 and Algebra 8. Okay? And there will be movement back and forth. There will be opportunity for movement back and forth. One of the problems with what we have now, aside from the fact that they're not aligned to the standards, is that in running a 2-year sequence in mathematics, when you have students in 7th grade moving on to 8th grade, for the majority of the students, that's fine. They start in one level and they continue on to the second level. But then we have students in particular who come to 8th grade either not having the background that they need or just plain not having any algebra whatsoever, and then they can't go into one of our algebra courses in 8th grade. Even though they might be fine math students in their previous districts, they just haven't been exposed to those concepts. This will eliminate that issue. So there is that. Just a quick overview of the curricula that you have in front of you. You do not have the Algebra 8 course that I allude to on this chart. You will have that next time we meet. So the intermediate math curriculum builds on students' the content and the experience that students have in K-5. The curricula that you have in front of you is a product of the efforts of the entire intermediate math department. They joined together in a professional learning community a year ago, and they've been working over the course of the year to find ways to effectively transition to the new standards and to implement a new curricula, to implement the standards aligned to, the curricula aligned to the new standards. A goal in particular in 6th grade is to solidify students' computational skills, and then to focus on, throughout 6, 7, and 8, to focus on other areas such as basic algebraic concepts, fundamental geometric relationships, and introductory statistics. The fundamental concepts that they're going to be focusing on in grades 6, 7, and 8 are at a more sophisticated level in most cases than used to happen, and they are preparing students for formal study of geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, and so forth in high school. So some of the content that they will get in each grade, for example, in 6th grade, we'll expect students to fluently add, subtract, multiply, and divide multi-digit decimals using the standard algorithm, the algorithms that you're used to, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing whole numbers, decimals, and so forth. They'll be expected to be able to divide fractions by fractions. They'll be studying ratios, proportions, and unit rates. They'll be studying what rational numbers are, ordering them, comparing them, graphing them on a number line, absolute value, notions of statistical variability, what a distribution looks like, mean, median, mode, that sort of thing, and solving one-step equations and inequalities. And then when they go to 7th grade, we pick it up a notch. They're solving multi-step equations, two-step equations, operations with rational numbers, not just what is a rational number, but how to perform operations with them, analyzing and applying proportional relationships, working with percents, drawing and analyzing geometric figures, solving problems involving geometric relationships, and geometry is a huge part of the 7th grade curriculum, which is not the case right now. Probability concepts is also in 7th grade, and then comparative inferences about two populations, again looking at one aspect of each population and comparing. And then in 8th grade, we're going to irrational numbers, radicals, and integer exponents, solving general one-variable equations and systems of equations, volume of cones, cylinders, and spheres, writing linear equations using slope, understanding and using slope, functions, both linear and nonlinear, congruence and similarity is in 8th grade, which is not the case right now, and heavy emphasis on the Pythagorean theorem, which is spoken about in 8th grade, but not to this extent currently. And then bivariate data, looking at scatter plots, correlation, things of that sort. So there's a progression. For example, there's several progressions. If you're looking at the algebra strand, first they're solving one-step equations in 6th grade, in 7th grade essentially two-step equations, and then in 8th grade all kinds of equations and systems of equations. In the world of statistics, first we're starting out with descriptive statistics. What do distributions look like? What are some of their characteristics? Then inferential statistics in 7th grade, where we're comparing populations, and then bivariate statistics in 8th grade. So that's essentially what is going on in the middle school program. The pre-algebra course, so we have 6, 7, and 8. The pre-algebra course combines the Math 7 course with elements of the Math 8 course. And so it's an accelerated course. And then what will happen in Algebra 8 is the rest of the standards that are supposed to be covered by 8th graders will be in the Algebra 8 course, plus a full-blown Algebra 1 course. But many of the algebra concepts that currently are covered in our 2-year Algebra 1 course will already be covered in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So that's essentially how that works. The criteria currently, going from 6th grade to 7th grade, the criteria we use for placement is we look at the NJS 5 scores. We don't look at NJS 6 because they come back too late for us to do our placements. So we look at NJS 5, we look at a midterm grade, we look at something called a cumulative test grade, which is towards the end of the year. Oh, my goodness. It's coming. Oh, and we look at the 3 marking period grades. The first 3 marking period grades, again, we don't use the 4th marking period grade because we need to do our placements by then. So those are the criteria that we're using currently. The criteria we're going to be using moving forward from 6th to 7th grade are the first 3 marking period grades, the NJS 5 score, and we have a new cumulative test that we've created that covers the whole year as opposed to a half year from the midterm on. So that's in a nutshell what the new curricula look like.
So that applies to this year's 6th graders,
It's
correct?
this year's 6th graders, right. We are going to go into these 2 classes for 7th grade. Questions?
I have a question. So, first of all, thank you for staying at this hour. Surely just wasn't the intention that you come on a night
That's
when
quite
we
all right.
have you here so late.
That's
so
quite
I
all right.
apologize for that. This chart was incredibly helpful. It was in our materials last time.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you had it. Okay.
No, it was great, and it's good to see it again. It's between this and your comments, it really helps you get a full understanding, I think, of what is changing. I think the only question I have is just when you compress three topics or levels into two, what does that do to the class in terms of it just feels like with a topic like math, you're going to have students maybe over their heads, and then maybe in the other end some students who aren't moving fast enough. Whereas when you have three breakouts, you could accommodate that a little more.
Well, it is something that we certainly discussed over the course of the year as to how we wanted to set this up. Some of the guidance we received were from the authors of the standards, so that gave us some idea of how to break this up. But actually what happens right now is we have this third level algebra prep, which is a good course, but we don't have very many students in it. And students who are in that course then don't have great feelings about themselves for the most part. They feel like they're in the dummy math, not the case, but that's what they feel like. They then are behind in terms of they're now 2 years behind in middle school before they can get into Algebra 1. In high school, there's nothing, some of these students will take Algebra 1 in high school, but it's a whole different ballgame. And what we would prefer to have teachers do is a better job of differentiating and supporting the students who need support. And what will happen in theory and hopefully in actuality is that all students will rise. As opposed to taking a small segment of the population and saying, you're not capable of moving on. We need to move everyone ahead. These standards are really rigorous. And we need to give everybody the opportunity to experience a rigorous curriculum and then help them, support them, so that they can be successful with it.
So a Math 7 class will be a Math 7 class will be a Math 7 class. There won't be distinctions.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Regina, are we communicating to parents? Are we sending them an explanatory letter, or?
I was holding off on that until I made this presentation because I felt that would be jumping the gun, but yes.
But it's in the works?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Thank you very much, and again, I really apologize.
Oh, it's quite all right.
5 to 12.
It's earlier than you told me it was going to be.
That's true, I did say you'll be on at midnight.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you did? I did, I told her last night, I said you'll be on at midnight.
Oh, it was another midnight.
Okay, and then moving on to world language, we have Italian 3 Honors. Italian 3 Honors is a new course. It is designed for advanced students who have excelled in Italian 2 and are seeking a fast-paced, rigorous course. Italian 3 Honors emphasizes the development of more sophisticated language skills in speaking, listening, reading, and writing, as well as fostering the world language standards of communication, culture, connections, comparisons, and communities. And we felt that this was important to have an Italian 3 Honors course because we have Spanish Honors and we have French Honors. And so to make Italian on par and in line with the other languages. So that will be that new course.
And can I just say something?
Sure.
And the Italian enrollment is going up, so more
Yes.
and more students are participating in Italian at very high levels. So there was also a need.
Right. I think actually it was like, it's going from 25 to 50 are the numbers I remember.
level,
off the top of
second
my head.
level.
And then we have Spanish 5 AP. Advanced Placement Spanish Literature and Culture is a redesigned course based on the course design put out by the College Board to introduce students to the formal study of literary analysis and to recognize and reflect on the many voices and cultures represented in Spanish Hispanic literature. Literary analysis is approached through global, historical, and contemporary context, and students are encouraged to make interdisciplinary, linguistic, and cultural comparisons. Any questions on world language?
That sounds great.
Okay, zipping on to science. We have intermediate science. 6, 7, and 8 is a 3-year spiraled curriculum that includes all major disciplines of science. And the teachers that came were very excited, and they talked about how they're trying to change the teaching of science into the big concepts as opposed to memorizing small details about a certain subject. They want kids to walk away with the concept, the big themes, and that they could look up the details if, you know, if they ever needed them. But so there's a whole change to hands-on, a lot of experimentation, a lot of inquiry-based learning in the sciences, and it was very excited, and they were so incredibly excited, which was very nice. Any questions on science? Okay, we can vote then.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
All right. I'd ask the board to consider finance motions numbers 1 through 10.
Second?
Thank you, and I would note a few of the items. Number 1, this is relates to an application for reimbursement of funds spent in connection with anti-bullying Bill of Rights training, and this is something that has come up through the state as a part of a funding mechanism for anti-bullying training. The list of courses are actually those courses we've taken and paid for. Before we started paying for those, we undertook other free training, if you will, as part of our overall program to educate everyone in the district necessary with regard to anti-bullying. I don't anticipate a large amount to come toward us in this regard, but it is appropriate to be making the application.
Absolutely. Yes, they've allotted $1 million for all of the public schools in New Jersey, a total of $1 million. So I think it's about 87 cents a student. So we'll see what we get. But we're putting in the application for the work we do.
Thank you. Note item 2 is the replacement of gym bleachers at the Roosevelt School. This was something we spoke about in the past, and as part of our 5-year continuing facilities development program. And we were able to go out to bid as previously approved by the board, and so now we have found an appropriate bid that we're asking you to approve tonight. Item number 3, I just quickly note, is another cooperative pricing system in Somerset County. We are party to more than one of these, and they are only to our benefit, so we don't have to go use them. But if we can use them to get a better price for a project or something we are looking to purchase, we would certainly want the ability to do that. And then finally, I would note item number 8, the board accepting a gift from the Fernandez family of a drum set, complete with multiple hardware and accessories, to the Fine Arts Department for the use in Tamaqua Elementary School Band, in the Tamaqua Elementary School Band program. We thank you very much for that. We appreciate it. Are there any comments or questions on the resolutions? All right.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Oley?
Yes.
I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record. And with that, moving to legislation.
No report.
Thank you. Any unfinished business?
Rich, is there something for the suspension of students? What is W, which school is it, W?
Westfield High School.
Okay, is there something going on there, or is that normal?
Well, I would, is there something else? No, there's not a pattern there. I know what each of the incidents is. I will say that in the spring, it's often a time when administrators and teachers are very busy monitoring students and making sure they don't believe that the summer has started, especially when weather is nice. Makes it even more difficult.
Okay. Thank you.
Any unfinished business? Any new business? Ad hoc committee reports.
We'll be meeting in 8 hours. And we'll get back to you.
Thank you. Liaison reports.
Next time.
Next time. Thank you.
Or wait,
Jenny.
At your peril.
won't.
Don't do it. I have it. It's next time. Thank you.
I'd recognize the public
Tweet
at
it.
this point for any questions or comments.
Good dreams.
Seeing no one come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing personnel, litigation, or negotiations, and being further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Do I have a second?
Yes, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? Motion carries. We are dismissed.